Chapter 1653. After he entered the courtyard, he did not go out. He did not try to move back to the High Duke's public house or the imperial residence of King An in case he exposed himself. No matter how relaxed they would still be wary of people who just came in. He could feel that he was being watched, including by Elder Fong from the Tower of Mystical Arts. When it was time to eat, someone would send over 6 dishes and 2 soup. It was rich and delicious. In the morning, there would be young men and women coming to clean the courtyard. They were the disciples of the church. These chores would be taken up by the young disciples of the church. Once their martial arts were strong enough, they could be freed to focus on cultivation. On the 3rd morning, he was cultivating when Lu Jun knocked on the door and entered. He had a travel-worn look on his face. When he saw Chu Li slowly ending his cultivation, and a strange force drifted in the courtyard, he looked at him up and down in surprise. He stared into Chu Li's eyes for a while and sighed. "Elder Bai, what a pity!" Chu Li smiled. "What's there to pity?" He had previously dispersed all his martial arts and focused on cultivating the art of eternal youth. He had already mastered the 1st level, and it was indeed exquisite. The force of the art of eternal youth was strange and mysterious. It was completely different from what he had cultivated before. It was in between essence and inner energy. As such, it was more nourishing to the body than inner energy. It was extremely beneficial to the body. After he cultivated, his old body did feel like it had regained some of its youth. The effect was unusually obvious. With your aptitude, if you had entered the church earlier, you might have been promoted to an elder. Lu Jun shook his head and sighed. Bai Li Na's luck was terrible. He had been pursuing and cultivating hard. Unfortunately, he could not get pointers from a famous master, nor could he learn any mystical arts. He finally obtained the sacrifice formula and treated it like a treasure. It would have been fine if his aptitude was not good enough to cultivate the sacrifice formula. However, his aptitude was amazing and he managed to cultivate the sacrifice formula, which caused him to age prematurely. Compared to his luck, Chu Li was really lucky. He was born in the Church of Eternal Youth. He had no lack of famous masters and mystical arts. His cultivation was smooth and he became a grandmaster at a young age. When he reached Bai Li Na's age, he would be a few times stronger than him. It was too late for Bai Li Na to enter the church now. It would be difficult for him to achieve more. His amazing aptitude could not match his achievement. Fate was really unfair to him. Chu Li smiled. "It doesn't matter. I don't want to be an elder. As long as I can cultivate mystical arts and antique studies, I'll be extremely happy." "That's good." Lu Jun smiled. "Good news, I really did find a relic from the Spirit Beast sect." Chu Li perked up. Lu Jun took out a small box from his sleeve and passed it to Chu Li. "Take a look." Chu Li took the dusty box and carefully opened it. Inside was a circular ring about the size of a rice bowl. It was as shiny as silver, perfectly round and flawless. One look and anyone could tell that it was not an ordinary item. "This is?" Chu Li looked carefully and saw 2 small words engraved on it. He raised his head and asked, "Mr. Zhang? This is a beast ring." Lu Jun smiled and said, "It's what the disciples of the Spirit Beast sect wear on the spirit beasts they tame. Some wear it on their legs, some wear it on their necks. It's made from a strange material from beyond the heavens, and it's said that it can be of any size." "The beast hoop." Chu Li nodded slowly. "It is indeed an extraordinary item." Lu Jun said, "Although this thing is strange, it's just a metal ring in the hands of others. It's not worth much, so I'll give it to you." Chu Li hurriedly said, "This." Lu Jun waved his hand and said, "This thing is not comparable to my life." "All right." Chu Li accepted it. Lu Jun said, "Elder Bai, we have to go down the mountain to the bishop's side. It's actually quite difficult for the bishop. There aren't many people in the church who are close to him. Most of them are against leaving the mountain. The comfortable life here has worn away their ambitions. Chu Li sighed and said, "Actually, it's understandable. I've been here for 3 days and I don't want to destroy the peaceful life here. It's so comfortable to stay here. Why go out and fight and ask for trouble?" "Don't ever tell this to the bishop." Lu Jun hesitated for a moment and warned him seriously. Chu Li said, "Brother Lu, you're one of us. Of course, I'll say whatever I want to say. If the bishop hears this, he'll definitely distance himself from you," Lu Jun said. "He hates people who don't want to improve themselves." Chu Li nodded. "Let's go down the mountain." Lu Jun regained his smile. "With the ageless longevity technique, your body can slowly recover. As long as you don't use the sacrificial technique often, I believe you'll be fine in less than a month. You're cultivating the ageless longevity technique too quickly." Chu Li smiled. "I still have to thank the bishop and Brother Lu." "You don't have to be so polite." Lu Jun waved his hand. As the two were about to leave, they suddenly heard footsteps. A delicate young lady came to the door and said in a sweet voice, "Young Lu, is he Bai Li Na? Sister Chiu?" Lu Jun quickly smiled. "Sister Chiu, what brings you here? You can just tell me if you need anything. Why come in person?" Chu Li fist saluted. "I'm Bai Li Na." "All right then, follow me." The delicate young lady looked at him from head to toe. She twisted her waist and slowly walked out. "The temple leader wants to see you." Chu Li looked at Lu Jun. Lu Jun's face stiffened. He quickly smiled. "It's Elder Fong. Don't worry. Brother Bai, if you have something to say, just say it. Don't lie." Chu Li nodded. He understood Lu Jun's hint. It was obvious that this Elder Fong could see through lies. He was not surprised by this ability. Sun Mingyue and Shao Qi both had this ability. Lu Yurong did not have this special skill, but she could do it through observation. He followed the delicate young lady into the North and South Avenue. They then walked along the avenue to the north. Wherever they passed, people would intentionally or unintentionally avoid the delicate young lady. It was as if they were walking on a river with a water-repelling pearl. The delicate young lady had a faint smile on her face. She was gentle and amiable, but it could not dispel the people's fear. They all gave way to her. Even the children who were playing on the road ran away when they saw her. Chu Li shook his head and laughed. He did not expect the Heaven's Punishment Hall to be so powerful. The two arrived in front of a gloomy basilica. The delicate young lady stopped and said respectfully, "Temple leader, Bai Li Na is here. Come in." A low and hoarse voice was heard. Chu Li slowly stepped into the basilica. As soon as he entered, a spirit tiger stood in front of him. It was as tall as an elephant and had a monstrous aura. He was so frightened that he stopped in his tracks and had goosebumps all over his body. Even though he knew that it was just a dead spirit tiger, his heart still raced and his legs trembled. It was an instinctive shiver that could not be avoided. Chu Li took a deep breath and gave a fist salute to the graceful lady who was standing beside the spirit tiger. "Greetings, temple leader." Although the spirit tiger was dead, it was still standing firmly in the same spot. It was vivid and lifelike. Its eyes were closed and its expression was serene. The spiritual energy around it was turbulent. His life and death scripture was very sensitive to spiritual energy. He could feel the sea of spiritual energy that covered the sky and earth. It was indescribably uncomfortable to be immersed in it. It was similar to the enlightened master's field. Chapter 1654. Chu Li was shocked, but he calmed down. He was confident that he could hide it from everyone without any flaws. He looked at Elder Fong in shock and asked confusedly, "Elder Fong, please tell me what I'm hiding? Are you really Bai Li Na?" Elder Fong asked. Chu Li was stunned. "I don't understand Elder Fong's words. Is there a second Bai Li Na? Is Bai Li a famous person? But there are many people with the same name in the world. I dare not say that the person Elder Fong is referring to is me." "You're quite good at quibbling," Elder Fong sneered. Do you still want to hide it now? I'm not the bishop, I don't trust people so easily. Tell me, where are you from? Thus, Chuli told them about his own background. Bailina really existed and was a hidden master. He was just not that strong. It was a coincidence that he joined the High Duke's public house, so he was real and there were no flaws. Chuli had read all of Bailina's memories and replayed his life. Elder Fong leaned lazily on the spirit tiger's back. Her beautiful figure exuded a murderous aura. Together with the spirit tiger's spiritual energy ocean, Chu Li's face became paler. As he spoke, he had difficulty breathing. Once he entered the identity of Bailina, he hid everything in the tree of life and death and hid in the void. He only retained the inner energy that matched Bailina's cultivation level. Other than that, he was innocent and flawless. Elder Fong looked at him without saying a word. Her slender phoenix eyes exuded a charming light that captivated souls. It was as if she was encouraging him to be bolder and take the initiative. She would comply with everything. Chu Li's face became paler and paler. He could not take it anymore. He hurriedly began to operate the art of unaging longevity. As soon as the strange aura of the art of unaging longevity came out, the pressure from the spiritual Qi Si and Elder Fong was instantly reduced by more than half. His expression relaxed as he continued to explain his background. After listening, Elder Fong did not comment. You followed the bishop to work. Did he have any difficulties? Yes, Chu Li nodded. Tell me about it, Elder Fong said casually. Chu Li hurriedly told them about what he had experienced, as well as his own speculations. Elder Fong squinted her eyes and scoffed. Chu Li. Chu Li quickly shut his mouth. Elder Fong asked, Have you seen this Chu Li before? Yes. Chu Li nodded. I've seen it with my own eyes. Back then, Chu Li wasn't this powerful. Do you think the bishop can deal with Chu Li? Elder Fong asked faintly. Chu Li hesitated for a moment before slowly shaking his head. Oh? Elder Fong's interest was piqued. Straightening her body, she left the spirit tiger and sat on the armchair at the side, asking lazily, What do you mean by that? Chu Li said, The cult leader's divine skill is astonishing, but the cult leader seems to have very little experience in life and death battles. Chu Li's reputation, on the other hand, was built by killing. From a lowly scribe to where he is today, he has experienced too many great battles. He is a crafty old fox. Even if the cult leader's martial art is a notch higher, his hands and feet are tied. It felt a little awkward to praise himself. What you said makes sense, Elder Fong said faintly. In your opinion, how can the bishop kill Chu Li? Chu Li thought about it and shook his head. I think the bishop is too impatient and lost his composure. That's why he is at a disadvantage. Otherwise, with the bishop's martial art, he won't be at a disadvantage in Chu Li's hands. Impatient, Elder Fong said. Aren't you afraid that the bishop will be unhappy if he hears this? Chu Li said, I am indebted to the bishop. Without the bishop, I won't have much longer to live. Now that I've cultivated the ageless longevity technique, I can live longer. As long as it's beneficial to the bishop, I'll say it even if the bishop is unhappy. It's rare for you to have such thoughts. Elder Fong nodded. You may go. Chu Li fist saluted and turned to walk back. Just as he was about to reach the doorstep, Elder Fong suddenly called out, Bailina? Chu Li's body stopped. He felt that the voice was extremely strange. It sounded like Shao Qi's voice, Sun Mingyue's voice, and Lu Yurong's voice. It was beautiful and pleasant. He could not help but turn his head to look. Elder Fong's slender phoenix eyes were shining brightly like the ripples of autumn water. It was captivating and captivating. His mind was involuntarily immersed in it, and he slowly lost himself. He suddenly came to his senses, but his eyes remained blank as he stared at Elder Fong in a daze. Bailina? Elder Fong's voice was gentle and demure like a mother's whisper. She asked softly, Do you have any ulterior motives for joining the longevity sect? No, Chu Li answered with a dull voice. Do you have anything to hide from the longevity sect? No. Do you like Elder Fong? I do. What about the bishop? I don't like him. All right, wake up, Elder Fong said softly. Chu Li's eyes suddenly focused and shot out a cold light. He stared coldly at Elder Fong. Elder Fong waved her delicate hand. Go, go. Chu Li hesitated for a while, as if he was about to explode, but he held it in. He fist saluted and strode away. The delicate young lady stepped in gently. Temple leader, it seems like there's no problem with this Bailey Na. It's hard to say, Elder Fong shook her head. The delicate young lady smiled. He passed the temple leader's test twice. What's wrong with him? Jade script. Elder Fong frowned. Jade script is not something anyone can learn. There are very few people in the world who know Jade script. Didn't he say that he was taught by an old monk? The delicate young lady said. Elder Fong said, What about the old monk's identity? There are not many old monks who know Jade script. Should we keep an eye on him? Since he's out of the longevity sect, there's no need to care about him, Elder Fong said calmly. We'll talk when we get back. Yes, the delicate young lady fist saluted and left the basilica. When Chu Li returned to his courtyard, Lu Jun was looking around anxiously. When he saw Chu Li, he let out a sigh of relief and quickly welcomed him. How was it? Did Elder Fong make things difficult for you? Chu Li shook his head. I just asked a few questions. Oh right, Elder Fong, what's up with the spirit tiger? That's the pet of the first temple leader. Lu Jun let out a sigh of relief. It seems like there's no problem. Let's leave quickly. It's not good to be targeted by Elder Fong. It's better to leave now. Chu Li asked curiously, Pet? I think it's a spirit tiger that the first temple leader asked for from the spirit beast sect. It was a small tiger and it slowly grew up. When the first temple leader ascended to heaven, it followed him. If that's the case, it's been dead for more than 1,000 years. Chu Li asked. About 2,000 years, Lu Jun said. Let's go. He pulled Chu Li and hurriedly walked out. Then, they stepped on the treetops and went down the floating mountain. They entered a small valley at the foot of the mountain. Then, the scenery in front of them suddenly changed. They appeared at the peak of another mountain. Under the observation of the omniscient mirror, he realized that this mountain was 3 mountains away from the previous one. They could not see each other at all. Chapter 1655. He stood at the top of the mountain and looked at the mountains. This peak did not have the elegance of looking down on other peaks. At this moment, outside the distant Ren public house, a handsome young man in a green shirt and a golden crown stepped into the public house. It was Song Jifan. He looked at the Ren public house, shook his head and sighed. He felt more and more depressed. Why was it so difficult to get the sky-killing sword? It was far beyond his imagination. There were too many unsatisfactory things in the world. According to his original plan, after he personally made a move, Chu Li would definitely fail. Then, he would obediently hand over the sky-killing sword. From then on, he could use this sword to kill enlightened masters like killing dogs. He would be invincible. The Changshan sect would amaze the world and rise in front of the world. Then, he would quickly use his martial arts to suppress the heroes, unify the martial arts world, and only the Changshan sect would be supreme. However, he could not overcome this small hurdle that he thought would be easily overcome. He thought that Chu Li was insignificant and not worthy of his attention, but he was actually so difficult to deal with. It was really beyond his imagination. In order to deal with Chu Li, he even deviated from his original plan and became an enlightened master in advance. However, he still could not suppress Chu Li and did not get the sky-killing sword. Now that Chu Li knew the power of the sky-killing sword, he would never hand it over. If he wanted to get the sky-killing sword, he could only catch Chu Li's woman. Unfortunately, Lady Xiao was a powerful person. She was not inferior to men. She could actually withstand a few of his moves and finally attracted Chu Li. In this way, it would be useless for him to move again. Lady Xiao could call Chu Li at any time. There was only one way left. It was to deal with Chu Li's other woman, Lu Yurong. This Lu Yurong was intelligent and was said to be a beautiful woman. Chu Li was really lucky with women. However, the beautiful women in the world did not have eyes and fell for a guy like him. Thinking of this, he was very angry. He wanted to kill Chu Li with a sword and show his corpse to the world so that all women would give up. Since Lu Yurong was intelligent, she was not good at martial arts. He had to defeat her in one move to avoid Chu Li's intervention and lose the chance to force him. Thinking of this, he suddenly disappeared. The two Ren public house protectors who were staring at him were startled. They frowned and looked at each other. They had never seen such a situation. He was clearly outside. How could he suddenly disappear? Song Jifan's figure was faintly discernible. He quickly shuttled around the Ren public house and appeared in the backyard. In the gazebo of the back garden, Lu Yurong was playing the zither with her head lowered. Her white hands gently and slowly strummed the strings. Her movements were elegant and calm. The sound of the zither was beautiful and pleasant to listen to. It was like a clear spring hitting a small stone or like a rolling jade bead. Song Jifan suddenly froze. Looking at her jade face and listening to the zither, he was actually somewhat entranced. He didn't want to disturb her playing. After some thought, he decided to wait for a while. It wouldn't be too late to make a move after she was done playing the zither. As an enlightened master, once he was hidden in the void, grandmasters would not be able to detect him. This was the confidence of an enlightened master, and it was a way to look down on grandmasters. However, Chu Li was the only exception. The sound of Lu Yurong's zither gradually changed, and the sound of metal clashing could be heard. The 9 women in the backyard suddenly floated, and then with Lu Yurong as the center, they formed the 9 Heavens Mystic Ladies formation. Their auras instantly circulated, and the 10 of them became one. The sound of the zither became more and more urgent. A huge figure appeared in the void behind her. It was the 9 Heavens Mystic Lady with her clothes fluttering in the wind. However, it was her face. Her beautiful face was as cold as frost, as if she was untainted by the mortal world. Song Jifan felt something was wrong. The 9 Heavens Mystic Lady's eyes were staring at the void where he was. It was obvious that she had discovered him. He couldn't care less about the beautiful sound of the zither anymore. In a flash, he appeared behind Lu Yurong and reached out with his hand. The sound of the zither stopped abruptly. Lu Yurong reached out with her white jade-like right palm. Bang! An explosive sound was heard. The gauze curtains in the gazebo fluttered as if a strong wind was blowing. Lu Yurong, along with the garden stool that she was sitting on, slid backward and crashed into Zhu Zhu. Ha! The 9 women shouted one after another. At the same time, they reached out with their palms and injected their inner energy into Lu Yurong's body. The 9 Heavens Mystic Lady in the void above Lu Yurong's head gently separated and suddenly split into 9 shadows. Then, they landed in the void above the 9 women and continuously absorbed the spiritual energy in the sky. As soon as the spiritual energy was absorbed, the originally faint shadows suddenly solidified. The 9 Heavens Mystic Ladies absorbed the spiritual energy at the same time and connected with each other. Finally, the 9 Heavens Mystic Ladies suddenly clapped their palms and all their inner energy was injected into the 9 Heavens Mystic Lady in the void above Lu Yurong's head. The 9 Heavens Mystic Lady suddenly lit up. It was as if Lu Yurong had been enlarged by about 10 times. She was 17 meters tall and stood majestically. Her face was clear and her facial features were exactly the same. Lu Yurong struck out with her palm and the 9 Heavens Mystic Lady followed suit. Suddenly, a light fell from the sky and formed a clear palm that hit Song Jifan. The speed was so fast that he couldn't dodge it. Song Jifan frowned and suddenly disappeared from where he was. In the next moment, he appeared behind Lu Yurong. Lu Yurong's body did not move, but her palm suddenly appeared in front of Song Jifan and faced his heart-eroding palm. Bang! In the loud bang, Song Jifan flipped and flew out of the gazebo. He looked at Lu Yurong in surprise. He didn't expect this woman to be so difficult to deal with. He gritted his teeth and suddenly shrunk his body. He performed the sacrificial divine power and then used the 3 vital fingers. Swoosh! A black light seemed to appear in the sky. It seemed slow, but it was incomparably fast. It came in front of Lu Yurong. Lu Yurong struck out with her palm. Bang! She flew out. The veil wrapped around her body and fluttered in the air. Chu Li moved and suddenly looked at Lu Yurong's direction. He turned his head and said, "Brother Lu, I have something urgent to attend to. I will leave first. Goodbye." After saying that, he left in a hurry without waiting for Lu Jun to speak. Lu Jun opened his mouth and wanted to say something, but Chu Li was already gone. Lu Jun shook his head in confusion. He frowned and looked in the direction where Chu Li disappeared. What happened? This elder Bai was so impatient. He was not as calm and sly as he used to be. Song Jifan chased him into the sky and was about to use another heart-eroding palm. Chu Li suddenly appeared in the void and reached out to hold Lu Yurong's waist. "You don't have to come. I can handle it." Lu Yurong frowned. Chu Li smiled and looked at Song Jifan. Song Jifan suddenly disappeared. Lu Yurong was stunned. She looked at Chu Li and then looked around. She was worried that Song Jifan was going to plot against Chu Li, so she hid in the void. However, the Empyrean fairy's senses told her that Song Jifan really left. This was a little strange. It was a little scary. Song Jifan should not be like this, right? Chu Li put her down gently. He noticed that Lu Yurong's martial arts had improved greatly. She was not heavily injured and was recovering quickly. She could actually dispel the enlightened master's inner energy. He was really impressed. "Thank you for reminding me," Lu Yurong said. "I was always prepared. Otherwise, he would have succeeded." Chu Li nodded. Lu Yurong chuckled and said, "Say, if I really fell into his hands, would you trade or not?" "Of course I would trade." Chu Li smiled. "The sky-regaining sword is a dead object. If I lose it, I can just get it back. At least you have a conscience." Lu Yurong said, "What do you think he will do next? If the third lady can't do it, I can't do it either. He won't give up, right?" Chu Li shook his head. This was also what he wanted to know. He did not know how many enlightened master martial arts Song Jifan had, and he had not mastered it. If he really settled down and cultivated for a while, he would have a headache. But he could not kill him now. There would be endless trouble. Chapter 1656. Lu Yurong said, "Actually, I should have shown weakness." The two came to the gazebo and sat down. The torn gauze curtain was taken away by a maid. The original Empyrean fairy formation also dispersed. Another maid brought over a cup of tea and smiled at Chu Li. They did not know that Chu Li was their fake son-in-law and thought that he was the real one. Now that he appeared in time, most of their anger dissipated and they could smile at him. Lu Yurong took the teacup and gave it to Chu Li. Chu Li took a sip and smiled. "You don't have to do this. Song Jifan is a tough nut to crack. It's best not to provoke him." Lu Yurong smiled. "His martial arts is great, but his mind is just average. If it was her, with her martial arts, she would have forced Chu Li to hand over the Sky Killer sword. He would not be in such a difficult situation." It was laughable and pitiful, but also annoying and hateful. Chu Li said, "Don't underestimate him. He is a smart person. It's just that he hasn't experienced enough, so his experience and mind haven't matured yet. If he is given a few more years, he will become very scary. He is a big problem now." Lu Yurong nodded. "The best way is to give him a taste of his own medicine." Chu Li smiled. "That's what I was thinking." Chu Li had told Lu Yurong in advance to be careful of Song Jifan. He did not expect it to be true. Song Jifan was a little rigid and willful. He would go down a dark path and not turn around until he hit a wall. This was also because his path was too smooth. Although there were constraints in the church, he could do everything as he wished and eventually became like this. You came here in such a hurry. Is it troublesome? Lu Yurong asked. Chu Li shook his head. This was actually a hidden danger. Lu Jun might be suspicious of him, especially Elder Fong. He could not let his guard down. She might be watching him closely, looking for his flaws. Song Jifan trusted him so easily and let him enter the floating mountain because of Elder Fong. It was clear that Elder Fong was deeply trusted by him and was strong enough. Chu Li frowned when he thought about the spiritual ocean and her aura. The spiritual ocean formed after the spirit tiger's death was so powerful that it was even more powerful than the enlightened God field. It was truly terrifying. Back then, he had also seen spirit tigers riding spirit cranes and flying over the spirit tiger mountain. Now that he thought about it, those spirit tigers were either not real spirit tigers, or they could not be bothered with him. Or perhaps, his cultivation was too weak back then and he did not realize how terrifying they were. Now that he thought about it, his actions back then made him break out in cold sweat. It really was too dangerous. Lu Yurong pondered, how did this guy become an enlightened master? When Chu Li told her about the transformation pill, Lu Yurong frowned. You can spread this news. All the enlightened masters in the world will feel threatened and unite against a common enemy. This will save you some effort. That's what I was thinking. Chu Li nodded. Lu Yurong smiled faintly. Looks like you're going to look for the saintess. Chu Li smiled. That's what I was thinking. Then what are you waiting for? Go. Lu Yurong scoffed. Chu Li gave a fist salute and smiled. I'll be going then. As he spoke, he suddenly disappeared from the gazebo. Lu Yurong picked up his teacup and splashed the tea. One of the maids pouted and wanted to say something, but she swallowed her words. She felt that it was unfair for her young lady. Chu Li did not look like a husband at all. He disappeared for no reason and only saw her 2 or 3 times a month. Such a beautiful young lady was given the cold shoulder. Was Third Lady Xiao really that beautiful? The Divine Light Basilica was bright. The midday sun shone on the Great Light Peak, illuminating the crystal-clear Great Light Peak. It was clear and flawless, without a trace of pollution. When the followers of the Divine Light Church saw it, they could not help but feel holy. Chu Li suddenly appeared in the Divine Light Basilica with Li Meng. Sun Mingyue, who was dressed in a snow-white robe, was reading a dossier. When she sensed the two of them, she looked up with bright eyes. Master. Li Meng bowed obediently. Sun Mingyue nodded and looked at Chu Li. Chu Li sized her up and felt a sense of familiarity. He smiled and said, Sure enough, your strength has increased greatly. Sun Mingyue's enlightened God field was about 5 times stronger than before. Standing close to her, he felt as if he was being stabbed by a knife. Fortunately, his physique was different and had surpassed the level of mortals. Even if it was a little painful, he would not be hurt, so he ignored it. Since the enlightened God field was 5 times stronger, her strength would only increase even more. It was likely to be 6 or 7 times stronger. You know about it? Sun Mingyue asked. Chu Li nodded. Seems like you're going to deal with Song Jifan, right? Yes. Sun Mingyue nodded. But, Chu Li said, you know about the Outland too? Master told me in my dream, Sun Mingyue said. The Great Light Scripture has this effect. Chu Li suddenly understood. What about Song Wuji? Sun Mingyue furrowed her brows and sighed. Master advised me not to do anything rash. Song Wuji is not someone to be trifled with. His methods are too cruel, but Master is not afraid. She has already entered the Azure realm, and Song Wuji's hands cannot touch her. Master is afraid that something bad will happen to me. Chu Li nodded slowly. A deva descends. Then it's better if you don't do anything. Once Song Jifan was killed, with Song Wuji's overbearing temper, he would definitely take revenge. A deva descends to take the murderer's life. He was proficient in the cultivation method of the transformation pill. He could even refine an enlightened master into a transformation pill. To an enlightened master, it was terrifying. From what Zhou Dunley said, Chu Li could vaguely guess that Song Wuji was a big shot in the Outland. He had an overbearing temper. Once Song Jifan died, he would definitely descend and refine the enlightened masters who killed Song Jifan into transformation pills. It would be too late for the Outland to pursue the matter. If I don't do anything, I won't be able to get over it. Sun Mingyue sighed. Chu Li pondered. Then let's wait. I guess all the enlightened masters are thinking of taking advantage of the situation. Sun Mingyue nodded slowly. Such a big world is controlled by a small Song Jifan. What a joke. It's because Song Wuji is here. Chu Li smiled. Let's do it this way. Spread 2 pieces of news. The first is the method to become an enlightened master and the refining method of the transformation pill. The second is that once Song Jifan obtains the Sky Killer Sword, he can kill them, just like how Song Wuji killed the enlightened masters. He told them the refining method of the transformation pill and the Sky Killer Sword combined with the Sky Killer Scripture. Its power could easily kill an enlightened master. Once these 2 pieces of news spread, the enlightened masters who were dragging their feet would definitely take action. They would die sooner or later anyway. As an enlightened master, how could they disrespect their dignity? It was better to die with a bang. Okay. Sun Mingyue nodded slowly. I'm just worried that this will hurt their vitality. Chu Li smiled. This is what the Outland should be concerned about. He hated the Outland to the core. They were so useless. They sent an enlightened master but failed to kill Song Jifan. It was disadvantageous. Why didn't they send a stronger deva? Although a stronger deva could still kill him. Sun Mingyue glanced at Li Meng, who had her eyes wide open. She's not bad, right? Not bad. Chu Li smiled. Li Meng let out a sigh of relief and looked at Chu Li gratefully. Sun Mingyue said, Look at her. She's not so impetuous anymore. It seems that she's trained her temperament. Leave it to me. Chu Li smiled and waved his hand. I'll go back first. Sun Mingyue glanced at Li Meng. Li Meng quickly said, Don't worry, master. I'll be obedient. Chapter 1657. Sun Mingyue nodded in satisfaction. Just as Chu Li was about to leave, he suddenly stopped and revealed a strange smile. Sun Mingyue saw his strange smile. What is it? Chu Li smiled. An old friend is here. Sun Mingyue pondered. Could it be that Song Jifan? Chu Li nodded. I didn't expect him to come here. Did he hear some rumors? Sun Mingyue glared at him and scoffed. What rumors? Chu Li smiled and shook his head. This Song Jifan was really interesting. He wanted to beat up all the women he was close with. He really did not want to give up. Logically speaking, it was difficult to spread his relationship with Sun Mingyue because only a few people knew about it, and they were all enlightened masters who would not easily share such gossip with others. Sun Mingyue scoffed. Is he going to start killing enlightened masters? He probably thinks that I'm the newest enlightened master and the easiest to kill. Chu Li slowly nodded. Very likely. Song Jifan's art of ageless live forever was a devouring technique, which allowed him to devour others to strengthen himself. It was similar to the spirit-devouring turtle. He had been forced into a corner by Yang Qi and was anxious for quick result. The art of ageless live forever was the best method. Devouring grandmasters was not enough to strengthen him. Enlightened masters were the most suitable. Sun Mingyue was a new enlightened master. She was the weakest and the easiest to deal with. Of course, he had to find the softest one. Sun Mingyue raised her voice. Come. Du Ying in her green robe fluttered into the hall. Leader. Tell the disciples at the foot of the mountain not to stop him. Let him come directly to the Divine Light Basilica. Sun Mingwe said. Yes. Duing retreated gently, glancing at Chu Li before leaving. Chu Li smiled and nodded. Duing smiled and fluttered out of the basilica. Li Meng saw their subtle expressions and was secretly surprised. Could it be related to Duing? Sun Mingwe said, Chu Li, you should hide first. That's boring, Chu Li smiled. I want to see Leader Song's expression. Don't attack first, I want to test his strength. Sun Mingwe said. He must be a powerful master to make the grandmasters so nervous. I haven't fought much after becoming an enlightened master. Chu Li smiled and nodded. He activated the life and death scripture and retracted his aura. It was as if he had become one with the void, becoming one with heaven and man. If one closed their eyes, they would not be able to sense his existence. He had completely disappeared. Ha ha! Song Jifan's laughter could be heard before he arrived. He was dressed in a green robe and had a golden crown on his head. He strode into the Divine Light Hall, cupped his fists, and said to Sun Mingwe, I'm Song Jifan, the leader of the Changshan sect. Nice to meet you, Leader Sun. Sun Mingwe had already put on a white veil, and her jade-like face was covered. Only her clear eyes could be seen as she looked at him indifferently. Cult Master Song, why have you graced us with your presence? I wouldn't dare to advise you. Song Jifan laughed heartily. His gaze was completely captivated by Sun Mingwe's bright eyes, and he could not tear his gaze away. He gave a fist salute and smiled. I've long heard of the Holy Church of Light's Saint's great name. I've come to learn a thing or two from you. Are you here to kill me? Sun Mingwe asked calmly. Of course not. Song Jifan shook his head and smiled. I've long heard of your great name, but I really don't mean to offend you. I'm only here to learn a thing or two from you. After all, I've just become an enlightened master, and I'm not too familiar with enlightened masters yet. He originally harbored the intention to kill this youngest enlightened master, and turn him into his own strength to strengthen himself. Then, he would deal with Chu Li's woman, and it would be a piece of cake. When Chu Li rushed over to help, he saw that he had already succeeded, so he had no choice but to hand over the Sky Killer sword in exchange for Sun Mingwe. When he thought of that moment, he was inexplicably excited, and he could not wait to kill Sun Mingwe. However, the moment he saw Sun Mingwe, he suddenly changed his mind. He, who was naturally affectionate, was instantly captivated by Sun Mingwe's bright eyes. He felt that there was nothing more beautiful than this pair of bright eyes in the world. They were clear and cold, indifferent and proud. What a charming pair of eyes! Even Third Lady Xiao and Lady Lu were astonishingly beautiful. Their beautiful eyes could not be compared to this pair of bright eyes, which were truly untainted by the mundane world. A woman with such a pair of bright eyes, even if she had an ordinary appearance, was enough to charm anyone. Sun Mingwe said calmly, Cult Leader Song, I'm very busy, I don't have the time to spar with you, please leave. This. Song Jifan did not expect her to be so cold and distant. No matter what, he was considered handsome, and his background was high enough to be worthy of her, so why was she so heartless and cold? Cult Leader Song, I understand your intention. I've already received a warning from the Outland. I heard that you want to kill all the enlightened masters, Sun Mingwe said calmly. How is that possible? The Outland is too exaggerated. How can I kill all the enlightened masters? Song Jifan shook his head and laughed. Could it be that cult leader Sun believes this nonsense? I have to be on guard, Sun Mingwe said. Facing someone who wants to kill me, it's better to be careful. Cult leader Sun is too careful, Song Jifan shook his head and laughed. I'm also someone who has tender and protective feelings for the fairer sex. Chu Li coughed softly and smiled. Cult leader Song, we meet again. He suddenly released his aura, as if he had suddenly drilled out of the void. Song Jifan was stunned. He suddenly noticed Chu Li, and his expression changed. His smile froze on his handsome face, and his gaze suddenly turned cold. Chu, why are you here? Chu Li smiled. Could it be that this is the Longevity Church, and cult leader Song is controlling too much? Song Jifan looked at Chu Li, then looked at Sun Mingyue and frowned. He felt extremely uncomfortable, and endless anger surged. Could it be that all the beauties in the world were in love with Chu Li and fell into his hands? This was too unfair. Where was he? Chu Li said, I have some friendship with cult leader Sun. I didn't expect cult leader Song to know about this. You're really amazing. What friendship do you have? Chu Li, you already have Third Lady Xiao and Lady Lu. Song Jifan was inexplicably jealous. Chu Li waved his hand and laughed. Cult leader Song, are you going to fight? Chu Li, don't worry, one day I'll beat you until you beg for mercy. Song Jifan said coldly, then turned to Sun Mingyue and closed fist saluted. Cult leader Sun, I advise you to stay away from him. He's not a good person, come visit him another day. He suddenly disappeared after he finished speaking. Sun Mingyue was stunned. She looked at the direction where he disappeared, then looked at Chu Li. Chu Li smiled. He really left. How is that possible? Sun Mingyue was shocked. She thought it would be a fierce battle, and even if she won, it would be a Pyrrhic victory, and she needed Chu Li's help to barely hold on. She never thought that Song Jifan would leave in such a hurry, as if he was fleeing in a panic. Chu Li smiled. He suffered a few losses in my hands, and now he's learned. When did you become so powerful? Sun Mingyue laughed. She looked at Chu Li, and felt that Chu Li's skill was more refined and pure, but not much stronger. Chu Li said, He forced me to keep moving forward, and now I can barely suppress him, but you still have to be careful of him. Of course. Sun Mingyue nodded. Li Meng's eyes widened in disbelief. She could not believe that Chu Li was more powerful than Master. The guy who wanted to kill Master was scared away by Chu Li's words. This was what it meant to be frightened. Chapter 1658. Who is it this time? Sun Mingyue asked. She focused her senses but could only sense a faint trace. It was as if an enlightened master was approaching, but she did not know who it was. It was obvious that Chu Li's sensing ability was much better than hers. Chu Li smiled. Tang Su. He shook his head and sighed. I thought he would stay quiet for a while, but I didn't expect him to come out again. Is he trying to take advantage of the situation or to kick us when we're down? He's not here to help, Sun Mingyue said coldly. Chu Li nodded and smiled. He doesn't have good intentions. He might have sent someone to keep an eye on Great Light Peak. As soon as Song Jifan arrived, he heard the news and rushed over to watch the show. It'll be best if both of you are injured. He can kill two birds with one stone. If the other one is defeated, he can take advantage of the situation or deal with Song Jifan. Sun Mingyue asked, Do you think he's going to deal with Song Jifan or me? Song Jifan can be dealt with at any time, but you're different. Chu Li shook his head and smiled. Tang Su is a vengeful person. It's all my fault. The reason why Tang Su hated Sun Mingyue was ultimately because of himself. Sun Mingyue rolled her eyes at him. Chu Li smiled. All right, let's not talk about this anymore. What are you going to do? Kill him or keep him? Sun Mingyue asked, Are you sure? The strengthening of Outland this time might cause the strong to become stronger and the weak to become weaker. He must be very powerful, and we might not be his match. I think it's better to avoid him. Chu Li shook his head and smiled. I want to see what he's capable of. If I can kill him, should I do it? It's better not to. Sun Mingyue pondered and shook her head. We're in troubled times now. If you kill him, I'm afraid the Outland will be furious. There will be endless trouble. It's not worth it. Chu Li smiled. That's true. Sun Mingyue secretly sighed in relief. She was afraid that Chu Li would not listen to her and force things. She finally sensed Tang Su's presence and raised her voice. Your Majesty, since you're here, why don't you show yourself? Tang Su came but did not show himself. He was hiding in the void, obviously trying to take advantage of the situation. Tang Su suddenly appeared in divine light basilica. He wore a bright yellow robe and looked at Sun Mingyue with a complicated expression. Sun Mingyue smiled faintly. "What brings you here, Your Majesty? If you want to see me killed by Song Jifan, then I will have to disappoint Your Majesty. I didn't expect Song Jifan to be so useless." Tang Su shook his head and said, "To think that the realm beyond Avalon took this matter so seriously, as if they were facing a great enemy and were so nervous." Sun Mingyue asked, "Your Majesty wishes for him to become stronger? As long as I can kill you." Tang Su smiled and glanced at Chu Li, who was standing quietly at the side. "If that's the case, you won't be able to join forces, so there's nothing to fear." Chu Li gave a fist salute and said, "Your Majesty, are you still going to kill each other when the enemy is so close?" "He's not worthy." Tang Su stood in the void with his hands behind his back and snorted. Chu Li shook his head. "It seems like Your Majesty doesn't know how serious this matter is. I'm sure Your Majesty knows about Song Wuji back then. He personally slaughtered many enlightened masters back then, and now, his descendants want to recreate that scene." "Song Jifan is not Song Wuji," Tang Su said disapprovingly. Chu Li calmly said, "There are many things that Your Majesty may not be aware of. Allow me to clarify your doubts." "I'm all ears," Tang Su said. The two of them spoke so calmly that it was impossible to tell that they wanted to kill each other. Li Meng was confused. She thought that they would fight to the death as soon as they arrived. She did not expect them to speak so calmly. It was really strange. Chu Li said, "When Song Jifan became an enlightened master, I saw it with my own eyes. He used the transformation pill to become an enlightened master. Then, the heavenly thunder struck, and a celestial came to kill him. In the end, he pretended to be dead and escaped." "A celestial came?" Tang Su frowned. Chu Li nodded and said, "The celestial was his enemy. The temple leader of the sacred blood temple would not have purposely let him go. Song Jifan cultivated the ageless longevity technique, and if he pretended to be dead, no one would have noticed." "The transformation pill?" Tang Su asked. Chu Li said, "Your Majesty may have heard of the transformation pill. It extracts the enlightened master's vitality and imbues it into the heaven and God pill. The enlightened master will not be able to reincarnate and enter the Grandmaster's boundary. He will never be free." Tang Su's face darkened, and his eyes flashed with coldness. The air in the divine light basilica seemed to have turned into a freezing swamp. The atmosphere was so cold that it was difficult to breathe. Sun Mingyue took a step back and stood in front of Li Meng. Li Meng immediately felt her breath relax. Her whole body relaxed, and her breathing became smooth again. She could not help but be speechless. The power of an enlightened master was so terrifying. Chu Li shook his head and said, "The reason why he kept chasing me and wanted to kill me is because of the Sky Killer Sword." Tang Su squinted and looked at him calmly. Chu Li said, "Your Majesty has already experienced the power of the Sky Killer Sword. It was originally Song Wuji's sword, and he used it to kill many enlightened masters. I have the Sky Killer Sword, but I only have the shape of the sword, not the essence. It is said that Song Jifan knows the Sky Killer Scripture, and this scripture is compatible with the Sky Killer Sword and Sky Killer Sword technique. Killing enlightened masters is like killing chickens. He is the second Song Wuji. That's impossible, right?" Tang Su said. Chu Li scoffed and said, "Then Your Majesty, do you think the people of the Grandmaster's boundary are muddle-headed? Why did you increase your power with such great fanfare? If it was not necessary, would the Grandmaster's boundary be so abnormal? So, we have to get rid of Song Jifan first?" Tang Su asked. Chu Li shook his head and said, "It will be difficult to kill Song Jifan." Tang Su scoffed and said, "He is not Song Wuji yet, killing him will be easy." Chu Li laughed coldly and said, "If it was that easy, I would have killed him long ago. You? Tang Su shook his head. Without Sun Mingyue, you are nothing. Chu Li smiled and his eyes flashed. Tang Su suddenly felt a splitting headache and his vision went black. His eyes went blank for a moment, and when he regained clarity, he was already sent flying by Chu Li. He spat out a mouthful of blood. When he looked down, there was a golden palm print on his chest, and it was clear as if there was a golden glow circulating. His body seemed to have been penetrated by the palm print, and his organs felt like they were on fire. The pain was unbearable, and he was seriously injured. You! He stared at Chu Li in shock. Chu Li said calmly, Your Majesty still thinks that I can't kill you? What an evil martial art! Tang Su gritted his teeth and said in a low voice, Then why did you hold back? Chu Li said, Because Your Majesty is a smart man. Because he was a smart man, he would not be swayed by his emotions. If he knew that he was no match for him, he would not be obsessed with revenge, and would temporarily let go of his hatred. More importantly, he was afraid that if he killed Tang Su, he would really become enemies with the Tang family. He might even anger the elder ancestor of the Tang family, and if another celestial being came, he would lose more than he gained. It was really unnecessary, and it was better not to provoke another celestial being at this time. Tang Su said, Since you have such merit, why not kill Song Jifan? Chu Li shook his head and said, Because of Song Wuji. Chapter 1659. Tang Su sneered, his voice chilling to the bone. In that case, we can't touch Song Jifan? We can beat him, we can cripple him, but we can't kill him. Chu Li shook his head. I've been looking for a chance to cripple him, but he has the art of ageless longevity. He can recover immediately after being crippled, so I can't do anything to him. I can only make sure he doesn't get the Sky Killer Sword. Can you stop him from getting the Sky Killer Sword? Tang Su frowned. What if he attacks Goddess Attraction Mountain? Chu Li said, Goddess Attraction Mountain isn't a place he can go whenever he wants. That's not necessarily true. I know his cultivation level is very powerful. If he continues to improve, we won't be his match. If it wasn't for Grandmaster's help, a few of us would have been killed. Chu Li smiled. He's always wanted to get the Sky Killer Sword before killing you guys. That's why you guys haven't been killed yet, but now it seems like he's running out of patience. The art of ageless longevity can strengthen his cultivation level by devouring others. If he defeats an enlightened master, he'll become stronger. If he defeats a few, the rest won't be his match. Why did he attack Church Leader Sun? He thinks that Church Leader Sun is the weakest new enlightened master. Once he defeats Church Leader Sun, the next would be Ji Dynasty's enlightened master, then Jing Dynasty's enlightened master, then Li Dynasty's enlightened master, and finally you, Your Majesty. Only by killing Your Majesty can he go up Goddess Attraction Mountain. Before killing all the other enlightened masters, he won't dare to go up. That makes sense. Tang Su nodded. If that's the case, we'll have to work together? Chu Li shook his head. In the end, he wants to kill the enlightened masters and create a new world that won't be controlled by Grandmaster. The right to become a god will belong to him. How ambitious! Tang Su scoffed. How could he not have the same ambition? That was why he hated those who had the same ambition and could not tolerate it. Chu Li said, Although he's ambitious, it's not completely impossible. After all, he has Song Wuji behind him. Alright, Chu Li, let's put our grudges aside. Tang Su pondered and said slowly, Let's deal with Song Jifan first. Chu Li smiled. I thought Your Majesty said that we'll forget our grudges. That's impossible. Tang Su shook his head. You wouldn't believe me even if I said that. All right, I'll trust His Majesty this time. Let's put aside our grudges and deal with Song Jifan first. Chu Li said, The best idea is to capture him and imprison him. After we've crippled him, We'll send someone to keep an eye on him at all times to prevent him from recovering. Otherwise, if we give him a chance, he'll be able to come back from the dead. He might even become stronger and become a bigger problem. Is Cult Master Sun involved in this matter? Tang Su looked at Sun Mingyue. Sun Mingyue said faintly, "It's my duty." "All right." Tang Su laughed and said, "As expected, a woman is not inferior to a man, being so straightforward and efficient. I will find someone to discuss this with and strive for us heavenly deities to join hands to restrain him and cripple him. Does he really think that we heavenly deities are made of clay, to be manipulated by him?" Chu Li said, "I'd like to remind you to be careful, Your Majesty. He's not the only one in the Longevity Church. There are many other masters in hiding, so you must act quickly and covertly. Otherwise, if the Longevity Church finds out, there will be more variables." "All right, I'll play it safe." Tang Su nodded. "Chu Li, you're not involved?" Chu Li shook his head and said, "I won't be involved. After all, he's only a grandmaster, not an enlightened master like you." "All right," Tang Su said, "then wait for my good news, Cult Master Sunday." Chu Li smiled and said, "His Majesty, don't play any tricks at this time, or else we'll really become enemies. I've always been aware of the severity of my actions." Tang Su scoffed and suddenly disappeared. Chu Li looked at the spot where he disappeared and shook his head. "I really have to guard against him." Sun Mingyue said, "I will." "All right then, I'll take my leave first." Chu Li smiled and nodded. "Miss Li, do you have anything else to say?" Li Meng quickly said, "Master, take care." Sun Mingyue said faintly, "Listen to Chu Li in everything, don't make your own decisions and act smart, or else don't blame me for being ruthless." "Yes." Li Meng nodded vigorously. Chu Li pulled her sleeve and suddenly disappeared. The next moment, they appeared in the courtyard of the High Duke's public house. Chu Li pointed at the Glory's Will tree. "Continue chanting. Whenever you complete your goal, you can start cultivating martial arts, so there's no rush." "Yes," Li Meng answered obediently. After witnessing Chu Li's imposing manner and prestige when facing an enlightened master, she suddenly understood Master's painstaking efforts. It was indeed a rare opportunity to learn from Chu Li. Even if she knew he was making things difficult for her, she had to grit her teeth and do it well, so that he could not say anything and not embarrass Master. The next moment, Chu Li appeared in the distance and hurried to Lu Jun. Lu Jun was skinning a deer in the forest with a bonfire next to him. When he saw Chu Li, he scoffed and said, "I say, Bai Li, what the hell are you doing? Why are you being so mysterious?" Chu Li shook his head and sighed. "One of my friends sent out an emergency signal, so I'm going to save someone. I can help too." Lu Jun scoffed. Chu Li smiled. "I alone am enough, and I need to keep it a secret." "You need to keep it a secret even from me." Lu Jun stared at him in dissatisfaction. Chu Li said, "This is my promise to my friend, a friend who helped me gather information. I will not let a second person know about this." "All right, then you do the barbecue." Lu Jun scoffed. He had nothing to say. Bai Li was very sincere in this matter. A promise was the most important thing. When the two of them rushed back to the thatched cottage in the evening 2 days later, they saw Song Jifan sitting at the stone table outside drinking wine. His face was flushed, and his handsome face was flushed. His eyes were bright and burning as he stared at the two of them. The sun was setting and the sky was red. The forest beside the thatched cottage was dyed red, just like the maple leaves in late autumn. Song Jifan, who was dressed in green, was also dyed red. His golden crown was glowing red, and he looked even more luxurious. "Bishop!" Lu Jun and Chu Li went forward to greet him. Song Jifan raised his blurry eyes and looked at Chu Li. He chuckled. "Bai Li Na, it seems like you've mastered the first level." "Yes, thanks to Bishop, I've mastered it. My body is much stronger now." Chu Li nodded. Song Jifan scoffed. It seems like you've also passed Elder Fong's test. There's no problem. Chu Li smiled. Elder Fong did see me. If that's the case, then follow me to the 100,000 hills. Song Jifan said. Chu Li was stunned. Bishop, you're going to the 100,000 hills? That's right, the 100,000 hills. Song Jifan laughed. They all think that I can't do anything to them, especially Chu Li. He really thinks that I'm at the end of my rope. I want to show him who's stronger and more worthy of a beauty. Chu Li said, Bishop, please reconsider. Lu Jun nodded. Yes, Bishop, please reconsider. The 100,000 hills is not somewhere else. You can't enter it. Song Jifan's face suddenly darkened. He stared at Lu Jun coldly. Why? Am I not keeping my word? Of course not. Lu Jun shook his head. But the 100,000 hills is too dangerous. Chapter 1660. Yes. Lu Jun and Chu Li looked at each other helplessly. They shook their heads but did not dare to say more. Lu Jun could see that the bishop was unhappy. He had been defeated by Chu Li again and again. It had worn out the bishop's spirit and spirit. The original high-spirited look was gone. Now, he was drowning his sorrows in alcohol. There was not much he could do. If the bishop could not defeat Chu Li, he could not either. He could only accompany the bishop to take the risk. Lu Jun tugged at his sleeve and gave him a look. The two retreated into the forest far away. He looked at Chu Li. Elder Bai, quickly go back and inform Elder Fong. Chu Li raised his eyebrows. Lu Jun said, among all the elders in the cult, only Elder Fong can persuade Cult Master. We can't really let Cult Master go to the 100,000 mountains. Once he goes there, he will die without a doubt. Chu Li was confused. Is the 100,000 hills that powerful? The 100,000 hills is a forbidden area, especially for the enlightened masters. Lu Jun lowered his voice. Let me tell you, if you were weaker, you might live longer. But if you are an enlightened master, you will be killed there. There is no chance of survival. I have never heard of an enlightened master dying in there, Chu Li said. Lu Jun scoffed. That's because these enlightened masters know their place. But do you think there are only a few enlightened masters in the world, and there are no others? Chu Li looked at him thoughtfully. Lu Jun scoffed. There are many enlightened masters in private. They are just hiding. Some are in the Imperial Mausoleum, some are in the enlightened master grounds. Those who are not have died in the 100,000 hills. Chu Li laughed. Enlightened masters died in the 100,000 hills? In short, the 100,000 hills is the tomb of the enlightened masters. We must not enter it. The bishop must have suffered a huge shock this time. Lu Jun looked worried. He shook his head. If we can't persuade the bishop, it will be over. Chu Li said, why not you? Elder Fong trusts you more. Do you think I can leave? Lu Jun scoffed. Besides, my cultivation level is far from yours. I am not as fast as you. The most important thing now is speed. Elder Bai, don't dawdle. Let's go now. Just send a message to Elder Fong directly, Chu Li said with a smile. Why go through so much trouble? I'm sure we'll be able to contact Elder Fong. Lu Jun snorted. How am I qualified to contact Elder Fong? Only the cult master can use the 1,000-mile sound transmission snail. All right. Chu Li nodded. He understood Song Jifan's intentions. He wanted to enter the 100,000 mountains and devour spirit beasts to strengthen himself. It seemed that devouring spirit beasts was more beneficial than devouring deities, and his cultivation would increase faster. However, this was also an extremely risky move. Once the enlightened realm god stepped into the 100,000 mountains, he would be sensed by the spirit beasts in the 100,000 mountains. The second, first, and even supreme spirit beasts would rush over to kill him. Even if Song Wuji descended, he would not be a match for them, let alone Song Jifan. He speculated that Song Jifan must have something to rely on. The biggest possibility was that he had a treasure that could hide his aura. Quick, let's go. Lu Jun hurriedly glanced at the thatched cottage outside the forest. Cult Master drank too much. When he wakes up, I'll tell him that you haven't returned yet and that he's mistaken. All right. Chu Li closed fist saluted and turned to leave. Lu Jun watched him leave and let out a long sigh of relief. He then looked worriedly at Song Jifan, who was far away. He shook his head and went forward to pour wine for him. He wanted to make the cult master even more drunk and sleep deeper. This would delay him more and buy enough time for Chu Li. Chu Li appeared on the floating mountain. He walked quickly along the north-south avenue in the west. He suddenly stopped halfway as 3 young men blocked his way. All of them wore red robes and had white powder on their faces. They looked quite scary. Chu Li frowned and looked at the 3 of them. He closed fist saluted. Greetings, Senior Brother Nyo. The young man in the red robe waved his hand. You're Bailey Na who just joined the cult, right? That's right. Chu Li nodded. Nyo Jin snorted. Very good. Since you're a newcomer, you're a junior brother. We won't judge based on age. What orders do you have for me, Senior Brother Nyo? Chu Li asked. As a new junior brother, shouldn't you give us a toast? Nyo Jin chuckled. He looked at the other 2 young men. Don't you think so? If we don't treat junior brother Bailey Na to a meal, everyone will say that the floating mountain is not warm enough. That's right. The other 2 young men quickly nodded and chuckled. We should treat junior brother Bailey Na to a meal. All right, let's go to the Fortune restaurant. Nyo Jin laughed. Chu Li shook his head. I appreciate Senior Brother Nyo and the other 2 senior brothers' good intentions. Let's do it another day. I have something to report to Elder Fong this time. Yo, using Elder Fong to pressure us. Nyo Jin chuckled. Do you think we're useless and useless? That's why you don't want to accept our invitation? Chu Li said. Senior Brother Nyo, you misunderstood. I don't mean that. However, this matter is really important and cannot be delayed. I hope Senior Brother Nyo and the other 2 senior brothers can forgive me. Goodbye. He walked forward after he finished speaking. Nyo Jin and the other 2 stood in front of him and blocked the way. There was only enough space for 1 person to pass between every 2 people. If Chu Li wanted to move forward, he would have to pass through one of the gaps. He did not want to know that the 3 of them would definitely take the opportunity to provoke him. As long as there was physical contact, they would definitely take the opportunity to attack him. It was only natural for them to take him down a notch. Chu Li shook his head and smiled. His body suddenly flashed and he passed through the gap between the 2 of them. His current cultivation level was at Bailey Na's level. It was not too strong but not too weak either. It was comparable to them by a level. However, the 3 of them suddenly changed their bodies and collided with Chu Li. Nyo Jin shouted, Junior Brother Bailey Na, we don't have any other intentions. Don't fight. Even if Chu Li did not want to collide with them, the 3 of them had already collided with him. Chu Li quickly retreated and avoided the collision of the 3 of them. He avoided it by a hair's breadth. It was a close shave. The 3 of them's expressions changed slightly. They felt that they had encountered a tough opponent. They had already used all their strength to activate their heart techniques, but they could not touch this old man in front of them. They could not tell that he was a master of body movement technique. They had really underestimated this old man. Chu Li shouted, Senior Brother Nyo, if you continue to be unreasonable, don't blame me for not taking into consideration our friendship as fellow disciples. Who's being unreasonable? You're the one who bumped into us. How dare you say that we're unreasonable? Nyo Jin shouted, I must demand an explanation today. Old man, what right do you have to look down on senior brother? Chu Li raised his voice. Elder Fong, I have something to report. His voice shook the sky and echoed throughout the floating mountain. He felt that Elder Fong was hiding in the dark and watching. He wanted to take the opportunity to find out the truth about him. At the same time, he wanted to take the opportunity to teach Nyojin and the other two a lesson. He wanted to help the bishop vent his anger and intimidate those old men so that they would behave themselves. However, this shout forced Elder Fong to reveal himself. He could no longer hide. "Come to the Heavens Punishment Hall." Elder Fong's low and hoarse voice reverberated above the floating mountain. Chu Li raised his voice and shouted, "Yes." As he spoke, he looked at Nyojin and the other two. Nyojin and the other two's faces were covered with white powder. It was impossible to see the changes in their expressions. However, looking at their sharp eyes, it was obvious that they hated Chu Li. Chapter 1661. Nyojin gritted his teeth as he stared at his back. He watched as Chu Li left and disappeared at the end of the street. The people around avoided Chu Li and looked at the three of them with disdain. Even the children who were playing around looked at them as if they were pests. Nyojin scoffed, "What an arrogant old man! Brother Nyo, he's so old. He's not easy to deal with. We're wrong. We shouldn't have used this method. We've underestimated him," a young man said softly. "Yes, we should have arranged it well and done it flawlessly. We were too careless this time." The other young man nodded. Nyojin stared at them and scoffed, "Why didn't you say so earlier? We didn't expect this old man to be so hard to deal with." They scratched their heads and chuckled. Nyojin scoffed, "All right, we'll remember this. There'll be a chance to get back at him. He has to come back." "Yes, yes." The two young men nodded. Chu Li strode to the Heavens Punishment Hall. He closed fists saluted outside the hall and said, "Disciple Bailey Na greets the hall leader." "Come in," Elder Fong said calmly with a low, raspy yet alluring voice. Chu Li stepped into the hall. Suddenly, the sea of spiritual energy surged and drowned him in an instant. Chu Li took a deep breath and held on, not allowing himself to retreat. His face began to turn red, but he held on like a reef. He stood there steadily. Elder Fong wore a dark green gown and looked at him calmly. "What's going on? You came back yourself to pass the message on behalf of young Lu, right? You even went behind the bishop's back?" Chu Li said slowly, "Elder Fong has divine foresight. We were the ones who went behind the bishop's back. Disobeying orders is a serious crime. Do you know your crime?" Elder Fong sat lazily on the armchair and said, "Logically, my martial arts should be abolished and I'll be expelled from the church. I'll be left to fend for myself." Chu Li said, "I'm willing to be punished, but before that, I have to tell the bishop." "Speak," Elder Fong said. Chu Li said, "The bishop is heading to 100,000 Hills, so we need Elder Fong to persuade the bishop." 100,000 mountains? Elder Fong frowned slightly and said thoughtfully, "You want to go to 100,000 mountains?" Chu Li nodded slowly, his expression solemn. "When we met up with the bishop was drowning his sorrows in wine. Seizing the heavenly sword was not going smoothly, so he decided to go to the 100,000 Hills. He must surpass Chu Li. Looks like this Chu Li is a powerful character." Elder Fong said plainly, "To be able to suppress the cult master, it is very rare in this world. The cult master's luck is indeed not good." Chu Li hurriedly said, "Elder, it's better for you to go and persuade the bishop as soon as possible. If he really enters 100,000 Hills, everything will be too late." "Do you think the cult leader is an impulsive and reckless person?" Elder Fong scoffed. "You underestimate the cult leader." Chu Li was stunned. Could it be that the bishop has a way to enter and exit the 100,000 Hills? Will he be safe and sound? "Although I can't come out unscathed, it's not a problem for me to escape unscathed," Elder Fong said plainly. "Therefore, all of you are worrying blindly and losing confidence in cult leader. This is truly unforgivable." "Yes, I know my mistake." Chu Li closed fists saluted and said in a deep voice, "I'm willing to accept the punishment. This time, seeing that all of you are wholeheartedly working for the cult leader, this is rare. I can delay the severe punishment. Elder Fong waved her hand and said, but don't think that you can escape. What's right is right, what's wrong is wrong. Rules are rules. No matter what the situation is, the rules cannot be broken. Yes, Chuli nodded. Elder Fong stood up from the armchair. Her slender and graceful figure was faintly discernible under her dark green gown. She was graceful and moving. When Chuli thought that she was already more than 300 years old, he could not help but sigh. Presumably, there were countless women who wanted to be like Elder Fong, forever youthful and always looking like a 20-year-old woman. However, if it was really achieved, it would really be a strange feeling. Elder Fong said, if you break the rules again, you will be punished for both crimes. Not only will you be expelled from the cult, but your life will also be taken. Don't treat my words as a joke. I always do what I say. Yes, Chuli closed fist saluted and nodded solemnly. Forget it, you may go. Elder Fong waved her hand. Chuli said, Elder, are you not going? There's no need for me to go. Elder Fong shook her head. Chuli pondered for a while and said, I think it's better for Elder Fong to go. I can see that the bishop has suffered a huge blow. It hasn't been going well, and he hasn't been able to obtain the Sky Regal sword. He's on the verge of exploding. I'm afraid that the bishop will do something that he will regret. Elder Fong pondered and slowly nodded. You're right. Chuli smiled. Although the bishop is wise and powerful, he is still young. He has experienced too few setbacks and blows. He can't practice the principle that life is long. He should look far ahead and not be calculative about momentary gains and losses. Shut up. Elder Fong scoffed. Don't take advantage of your seniority. Yes. Chuli immediately shut his mouth. Elder Fong said, You may go. I will go there myself. Chuli closed fist saluted and was about to leave. Elder Fong continued, regarding Niu Jin and the other two, it's best that you don't offend them. Chuli turned his head and looked at her. Elder Fong said, Niu Jin and the other two's ancestors are the elders of the cult. If you offend them, you know the consequences. Chuli said, Can the elders of the cult make things difficult for me for no reason? They can't. Elder Fong shook her head. But they can say a few bad words at crucial times. When that happens, you won't even have a place to cry. Chuli smiled bitterly. I've already offended them. Then be careful in the future. Elder Fong smiled faintly. Chuli felt her bad taste. She purposely made him feel scared. He closed fist saluted. Yes. He turned and strode away. After leaving the basilica, he left the floating mountain. The floating mountain did not seem to be wary of the outside world. It allowed him to come and go as he pleased. There was not even a hint of vigilance or interrogation. He did not return to the High Duke's public house and King Anne's imperial residence immediately because he felt a strange aura lingering around. It was not a person. This aura was faintly discernible and almost undetectable. If it were not for his extraordinarily sharp senses, he would not have noticed it. Chuli's Heaven Star insight was a strange skill. It could sense his location and even see his every move. If he was not mistaken, it should be Elder Fong's doing. He pretended not to know and rushed all the way back to the thatched cottage. Then, he followed Lu Jun's secret mark and chased after them day and night. Finally, he caught up with Lu Jun and Song Jifan after 3 days. At this time, Elder Fong was already beside Song Jifan. The three of them were sitting on a boulder at the peak of a mountain drinking wine. There were also a few dishes on the table that were steaming. Lu Jun was at the side pouring wine for the two of them. He looked down. When Chuli arrived, he was already travel-worn, and his face was covered in frost. However, he was full of vigor, and his eyes shone brighter than before. His body looked younger than before. This was the effect of the ageless longevity technique. Elder Fong put down her wine glass and looked at him with a faint smile. Chu Li closed fist saluted the two of them and stood beside Lu Jun. Bishop, you know about these two fellas, right? Elder Fong smiled and said lazily, why is Bailey Na nowhere to be seen? Chapter 1662. They are worried that you are hot-headed and want to enter the 100,000 hills. Elder Fong smiled sweetly. It seems that you have no such intention. Song Jifan stared at Lu Jun and Chu Li. He sighed and shook his head. Elder Fong, I want to go in and have a look. Elder Fong smiled sweetly. You must have a reason to go to the 100,000 hills. Yes. Song Jifan said, if we don't enter the 100,000 hills, our plan will be delayed for more than a year. We don't even know if we can succeed after a year. Elder Fong frowned. If that's the case, Chu Li is very difficult to deal with. Very difficult. Song Jifan shook his head and sighed. I never thought I would meet such an opponent. He is specially designed to restrain me. Elder Fong said, why don't I try? Song Jifan shook his head. Elder Fong, I am now an enlightened master. My cultivation level is higher than yours and I am no match for Chu Li. Elder Fong, you are no match either. You don't have to die. Elder Fong chuckled. Sometimes you don't have to use martial arts. You can use other methods. Chu Li is young. He must be in his youth. Song Jifan frowned. Elder Fong, forget it. His wife is the third lady of the public house. She is beautiful. The other is the lady of the Ren public house. She is also a rare beauty. In other words, they are better than me. Elder Fong was surprised. Song Jifan sighed. They are not inferior to you. Elder Fong nodded. She understood that the two women were better than her. The bishop just wanted to save her face. Since Chu Li cannot, how about getting close to his wife? Elder Fong smiled. I will pretend to be someone who does not know martial arts. I don't think I will be a cold-hearted person when I get close to them? No. Song Jifan shook his head. Elder Fong said, this is the only way. As long as we can get close to his wife and kidnap them, will we still be afraid that Chu Li will not hand over the Sky Killer sword? Third Lady Xiao and Lady Lu are both top-notch in martial art. Song Jifan looked embarrassed. I'm afraid, Elder Fong pursed her lips and laughed. It seems that not only my appearance is not as good as theirs, but my martial arts is also not as good as theirs. Song Jifan sighed helplessly and did not refute. Elder Fong shook her head. This Chu Li is really. Does Bishop have to enter the 100,000 hills? This is the only way. Song Jifan said, I've tried to kill an enlightened master before, but I was unlucky enough to meet Chu Li. He ruined my plan. From then on, the news of me killing an enlightened master will spread all over the world. They'll all be on guard, so it won't be that easy. Without the heaven-killing sword, killing deities wouldn't be that easy, and the ageless longevity technique wouldn't be able to reach that level of power. Therefore, he had to find another way. It's that Chu Li again. Elder Fong scoffed. If we don't get rid of this person, the longevity church won't be able to prosper. As long as we get out of the 100,000 hills this time, we will definitely be able to kill Chu Li. Song Jifan scoffed. The me outside the 100,000 hills will not be the same me now. Elder Fong said, even with the protection of treasures, there is still danger. The spirit beasts are very scary. We have to take some risk. Song Jifan smiled. With the spirit tiger pill in hand, all beasts will retreat, and it can hide our aura. They won't notice that I'm going in, and I won't be too greedy. I'll retreat after killing a dozen or so spirit beasts. All right, Elder Fong sighed. Then please be careful, Bishop. I still have a lot of things to do. How can I die? Song Jifan said, you don't have to follow me. Elder Fong said, since Bishop insists on this, I won't try to persuade you. I wish you success. Lu Jun stared at Elder Fong anxiously. Elder Fong glanced at him and said, You don't know what the spirit tiger pill is, do you? Please enlighten me, Elder Fong, Lu Jun hurriedly said. Elder Fong said, the spirit tiger pill is a pill left behind by the spirit tiger after it ascended to heaven. It's similar to the enlightened master's heaven and God pill. This pill contains the aura of the spirit tiger, as if the spirit tiger had personally arrived. This time, Bishop won't bring you in because you won't be able to withstand the aura of the spirit tiger. What if there's really a spirit beast looking for trouble with the spirit tiger? Lu Jun hurriedly said, the spirit tiger isn't invincible, right? It has enemies too, right? There aren't many spirit beasts in the 100,000 hills that will look for trouble with the spirit tiger. The spirit tiger is a rank 1 spirit beast. The 100,000 hills is so big, how can we just bump into it? Elder Fong shook her head and said. Lu Jun said, what if we bump into it? Bumping into a spirit beast that dares to look for trouble with the spirit tiger is like walking and bumping into a meteorite falling on your head. Elder Fong smiled and said, if that's the case, we can only blame our bad luck. All right, Lu Jun nodded unwillingly. Song Jifan scoffed and said, enough? Gather? Retreat and steal the stock? Apologize and even the beard? Delicate and fake gathering? No Meng, yes, Bishop. Lu Jun closed fist saluted. Song Jifan looked at Chu Li. Bailey Na, it's best if you don't get close to Chongming Town and stay away from the public house. You're not their match yet, don't even think about revenge, and bring about your own destruction. Chu Li said, don't worry, Bishop. I can handle it. I want to isolate myself for a while now. Very well, Song Jifan nodded slowly. Elder Fong smiled and said, then let's go our separate ways. Be careful, Bishop. As soon as she finished speaking, she floated away like a lotus leaf and disappeared in the blink of an eye. Song Jifan glared at Lu Jun and scoffed, meddlesome. Lu Jun lowered his head and said nothing. He still did not feel that he was worried. No matter what, 100,000 Hills was an extremely dangerous place. After Song Jifan left, Chu Li wanted to find a place to isolate himself. Lu Jun originally wanted to persuade him to go back, but after hearing that Chu Li had offended Niu Jin and the other two, he immediately gave up on the idea. It was better to be outside. Niu Jin and the other two were not good people. They were the most shameless and would definitely pester him endlessly. It would be difficult for him to cultivate when he returned, let alone isolate himself. Chu Li found a cave and sat in it to start channeling the art of eternal youth. He could feel that the force that was checking on him had not dissipated yet. Elder Fong was still monitoring him. It seemed that she was still not at ease and was really careful. However, this would be troublesome. With the spirit tiger pill, they could run amok in 100,000 Hills? Their thinking was too simple and too naive. The spirit beasts in 100,000 Hills were not as incompetent as imagined. They could not tell the difference between a real spirit tiger and a fake one. If Song Jifan attracted the attention of a rank 1 spirit beast or even a supreme rank spirit beast, he would definitely die. Even if Song Wuji came later, it would be useless. The power of the spirit beasts was beyond imagination. Maybe even Song Jifan's soul would be destroyed. Thinking of this, Chu Li smiled. He even had the intention to add fuel to the fire, but after thinking about it, he gave up. 100,000 Hills was too dangerous. If he went in, he might not be able to escape unscathed, even if he rode the white dragon. It was really not worth it to die because of Song Jifan. However, letting Song Wuji devour the spirit beasts to strengthen himself would not work. If Song Wuji really grew up, the first person he would kill would be him. Chu Li thought about it, got up and left the cave, heading towards a peak. As he floated, when he was about to reach the peak, the scene in front of him suddenly changed. He had already entered a formation. Chapter 1663. P.S. The 51st Alliance Leader is born, the Alliance Leader, Blue Shadow T. As soon as he entered the formation, Chu Li immediately activated the life and death scripture and released his originally hidden aura, completely isolating the strange aura on his body. Elder Fong could no longer sense him. The next moment, he disappeared from the formation and appeared at the spirit crane's peak. As soon as he appeared, two white lights shot towards him. The two cranes pounced towards him at a faster speed than before. Their claws were sharp and their wings slashed down like blades. The claws and wings combined, faintly carrying an exquisite technique. The two spirit cranes were extremely intelligent, even more so than humans. When they fought with Chu Li, they learned his techniques and even refined them into techniques that suited them. It was an exquisite and peerless technique. Ha ha! Chu Li instantly laughed heartily. He had not seen them for a long time. After getting rid of the threat of the spirit-devouring turtle, he had been busy with mundane matters and had no time to spare. Bam 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 bam! The two cranes and one man fought into a ball. The dull explosion was continuous and the ground was a mess. The two cranes' current strength and speed were terrifyingly powerful. Chu Li was also not the same as before. They had both reached the peak level and their fight was earth-shattering. In the distance, the two spirit cranes stood on the treetops and sized them up. After a while, Chu Li and the two spirit cranes finally stopped fighting. He affectionately patted their backs and ate a fragrant exotic fruit before disappearing. He appeared beside the ice pool. The white dragon and the spirit-devouring turtle were floating lazily on the ice pool. One dragon and one turtle did not care about each other and swam separately. The spirit-devouring turtle and the white dragon had endured loneliness for a long time. They did not find it difficult to stay still with nothing to do. The entire ice pool seemed to have stopped and Chu Li could not help but laugh. Sensing his appearance, the two spirit beasts turned their heads. The white dragon let out a soft roar, and the water of the icy pond immediately lifted it up. It swayed in the air and instantly shot towards Chu Li, wanting to pounce on him. Chu Li hurriedly flipped over and leaped onto its back, activating the dragon taming technique. The white dragon complained in its heart and wanted to return to Yuan Valley. Chu Li could not help but laugh. Although the spiritual energy in Yuan Valley was scarce, it had lived here for too long after all. Its feelings were strong. Gold or silver nests were not as good as its own kennel. It was obvious that it was homesick living here. In the beginning, it still felt that the spiritual qi here was rich and extremely comfortable. It was so happy that it didn't want to return to Yuan Valley. But as time passed, it slowly lost the novelty and excitement of seeing the rich spiritual qi for the first time, so it wanted to go back to its nest. It was still more comfortable to stay in its nest. Chu Li thought about it. The white dragon was no longer the same as before. It was already a rank 2 spirit beast. If it caused trouble outside of Yuan Valley, it would be a disaster level. Who knew how many people would die? Fortunately, its ferocious nature was slowly worn down under his influence. Moreover, it would not come into contact with ordinary people while staying in Yuan Valley. Thus, he passed on his thoughts to the white dragon. As long as this matter was settled, he would bring it back to Yuan Valley. White Dragon immediately dove into the icy pond excitedly. Instantly, the pond water surged and raging waves surged into the sky, causing the spirit-devouring turtle to let out a cry of "Ong," complaining that it was making a ruckus. Chu Li floated to the shell of the spirit-devouring turtle. The aura of the dragon taming technique was activated, and both of them were connected. Chu Li passed on his thoughts to it, and he also transmitted Song Jifan's appearance into its heart. He asked it to send a message to the spirit beasts in 100,000 hills. There would be a human who would enter the mountains with the spirit tiger pill. He would devour the spirit beasts to strengthen himself, and he would be the leader of the longevity sect. The spirit-devouring turtle nodded slowly and turned to look at the white dragon. Its body that was as huge as a hill suddenly disappeared. In the next moment, it appeared 100 meters away and disappeared again in a flash until there was no trace of it. Chu looked at the white dragon. The white dragon let out a long woo sound. A light breeze blew and slowly lifted it up. It slowly rose into the sky like a cloud. Clouds and mist gathered around its body unknowingly, covering its body. It rose higher and higher, and finally disappeared into the clouds and mist in the sky. Although the white dragon was the lowest level of dragons, it was already a dragon and could control the wind and clouds. Chu smiled. This time, let's see if Song Jifan will die or not. An emerald figure appeared outside the formation where Chu had landed. Elder Fong, who was dressed in an emerald gown, appeared outside the formation. She looked at the formation in confusion. This was indeed a powerful formation, but she did not know why it had appeared here. It was very strange. This place was extremely remote and rarely visited by people. Could it be that she was a hermit? If that was the case, it was unknown whether it was a blessing or a curse for Bai Li Na to fall into this formation. He might even have a fortuitous encounter. However, Bai Li Na's cultivation level was extremely high now. Even if he obtained other mystical skills, he might not be able to cultivate it. She waited outside the formation for an hour, but there was still no movement. She was hesitant. Should she break into the formation to take a look? Using the secret skill would consume one's lifespan. This was a common problem of the secret skill to break formations. There was no other way to break the formation. The older she got, the more she knew how precious lifespan was. She treasured it very much and was reluctant to use it. She was already more than 300 years old. No matter how strong her cultivation level was, if she could not become an enlightened master, she would only have half of her lifespan left. Now, she saw the hope of the Chongshan Church rising. If the church leader almost unified this world before she died and was about to become an enlightened master, then she would be too unlucky. She might only be short of 8 to 10 years, just short of the lifespan to use the secret skill. After another hour, she could not help but want to go in. She did not want to see Bai Li Na's fate. She wanted to save Bai Li Na. There were no feelings for a new disciple of the church. She just wanted to verify if her thoughts were wrong. There must be something wrong with this Bai Li Na. Otherwise, how could he know the Jade script and understand the first heart formula of the art of eternal agility? If this Bai Li Na was someone with ulterior motives, or even from other sects, then there would be endless trouble. The Chongshan Church was extremely powerful, but all the powerful sects were not destroyed by the outside world, but by internal strife. Thinking of this, she felt like she was being bitten by ant. She could not help but use the secret skill anymore. The secret skill circulated a layer of inexplicable brilliance. Her light body leaped forward into the forest. The scenery in front of her was chaotic. Light and shadow flashed, and there were even distorted images. Looking at it made her feel annoyed and nauseous. When her vision suddenly became clear, she had already broken the formation and entered the inside. This formation was an external protection formation. It only targeted people outside the formation. There was no obstruction inside the formation. She could clearly see everything inside the formation. There was no shadow of Chu. It was just an empty pine forest. She sneered. There was indeed something wrong with this Bai Li Na. Her intuition was right. It was a joke for a lonely soul to learn the Jade script. She knew how much effort it took to learn it. Even if this guy was smart, it would be difficult for him to learn it from a wandering old monk. This was just a lie. She did not believe it. She glided in the forest and did not let go of any corner of the formation. There was no one else in the formation. However, he could not sense Bai Li Na at this moment. He must have discovered the qi that he had left on him and removed it. This meant that Bai Li Na's cultivation was not what he had shown. His cultivation was far higher than his, and was not inferior to his. She sneered and turned to leave the formation. She thought quickly and decided to inform the bishop. Although the bishop might be entering 100,000 hills and should not be distracted, he needed to be more vigilant. If this Bailina wanted to harm the bishop, it would be much easier to make a move after gaining the bishop's trust. Chapter 1664. Just as she was about to move, Chu Li's voice came from behind. "Elder Fong?" She quickly turned her head and saw Chu Li gliding over on the treetop. "You?" Elder Fong frowned and stared at him. "How did you get out?" Chu Li smiled. "Why are you here, Elder Fong?" "I accidentally entered the formation and spent a lot of effort to get out." "How did you get out?" Elder Fong scoffed. Chu Li shook his head. "I was lucky. I accidentally obtained a formation-breaking talisman and used it to get out." "Why did you take so long with the formation-breaking talisman?" Elder Fong squinted. Her bright and charming eyes flashed with a strange light. She asked, "What kind of formation-breaking talisman is it?" Chu Li replied, "I don't know either. I was reluctant to use it. The formation-breaking talisman is too precious. I wanted to break the formation myself, but, unfortunately, my formation cultivation is still half-baked. I spent a lot of effort but failed. In the end, I had to use the formation-breaking talisman." He shook his head and sighed. He looked like he was in pain. Elder Fong said indifferently, "You know array formations?" Chu Li smiled and said proudly, "I know a thing or two. Elder Fong, don't underestimate me. I have a wide range of interests and I'm well versed in all sorts of miscellaneous knowledge. Although I only know a little, it's still very useful during crucial moments." "I've been disrespectful," Elder Fong scoffed. Her voice was hoarse and low, sweet and seductive. Chu Li smiled. "Elder Fong, why are you here and coincidentally in front of the formation? Is Elder Fong looking for me?" "That's right. I followed you here." Elder Fong nodded slowly. The smile on Chu Li's face disappeared. He asked, "Elder Fong, what do you mean?" "I don't trust you," Elder Fong said calmly. "The bishop entrusted the Heaven's Punishment Hall with the mission of eliminating traitors. He trusts us. The Heaven's Punishment Hall will never allow a spy to sneak in." Chu Li's face darkened. He scoffed coldly. "Elder Fong thinks that I'm a spy?" "You're not right," Elder Fong said. Chu Li said, "I'd like to hear the details. I've dedicated my loyalty to the bishop and the Longevity Church, but this is how I've been treated. It's really despicable. The big sects all have this rule. The first step is to enter the sect and make contributions. The second step is to pass the test of innocence." Elder Fong said, "You can't be naive enough to think that you can gain everyone's trust and join the cult just because you have performed meritorious deeds." "Of course," Chu Li said, "I'm willing to sacrifice myself for you. My loyalty is as good as the sun and the moon." Elder Fong snorted softly and said, "Loyalty can be faked. All you have to do is come up with a trick or two. However, it is impossible to hide from my eyes. Bailina, who exactly are you?" Chu Li sighed and said, "I'm really wronged. If it weren't for my body, I wouldn't have risked my life like this. The art of eternal agility is where my only hope of survival lies. That's why I've risked my life to be loyal to the bishop. In the end, I've been suspected. I want to see the bishop and ask him personally if he suspects me." "You've mastered the first level of the ageless longevity technique, right?" Elder Fong asked. Chu Li nodded proudly. "Although my aptitude is mediocre, it's not too bad. I've mastered it." "That's good. I just want to ask why you're proficient in the Jade writings." "Don't tell me about that old monk," Elder Fong said lazily. "The complexity and difficulty of the Jade writings. I have experienced it firsthand. Without decades of hard work, it's impossible to master it. After learning from the old monk for a while, it's already good enough to recognize a few Jade writings." Chu Li thought for a while and shook his head. "My memory is excellent. I have a photographic memory. It's useless even if you have photographic memory. Elder Fong scoffed. There aren't many words in the jade writings. It's easy to memorize them. However, to really master it requires hard work. Chu Li sighed and said, "All right, I'll tell you the truth. Actually, my knowledge of the jade writings is just passable. I can understand the first level of the art of eternal agility because the bishop had passed me the incantation of the first level. I've also cultivated it for a while. That's why I can master it so quickly." "The bishop has passed you the incantation?" Elder Fong nodded slowly. "It was too difficult to master the first level with just the incantation. It must have been a test from the bishop." He felt that his aptitude was passable, so he agreed to join the church. It was really rare to be able to enter the church with just the incantation. However, the first level of the heart technique in the Tower of Mystical Techniques was much more detailed. There were many detailed explanations. It was the complete first level of the heart technique. It would allow people to have a clearer understanding of the art of eternal agility. It was no wonder that he could master the first level so quickly. He was indeed a genius in martial arts. Moreover, he was especially suitable to cultivate a heart technique like the art of eternal agility. Chu Li said proudly, "Elder Fong, are you relieved now?" "No, you're very suspicious." Elder Fong shook her head. Chu Li's face darkened. He scoffed. "Could it be that I've offended Elder Fong somewhere and you're purposely looking for trouble?" "That's right. I just don't like you and want to beat you up." Elder Fong nodded and said lightly, "Then I'll have to ask for Elder Fong's wisdom," Chu Li said coldly. He looked as if he could not bear it anymore. He took a deep breath and slowly channeled. Elder Fong suddenly closed in and punched out. Her fair little hand clenched into a fist. It was exquisite, like a lover's flirting. However, Chu Li extended his palm as if he was facing a formidable enemy. Bang! Both of them took 2 steps back. Chu Li's feet fluttered as he kept dispersing the fist force. Footprints that were 3 inches deep were left in the direction where he stopped. They were as clear as a brand. Chu Li took a deep breath. His face was flushed. Elder Fong has a good cultivation level. Elder Fong's fist force was strong and fierce. It was filled with murderous intent. It was even more ferocious than a man's. "You're not bad either." Elder Fong scoffed. Again. She punched again. Her fair fist was like a copper hammer. Bang, 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 bang. Both of them exchanged more than 10 blows in one breath. Chu Li kept retreating and dispersing the force. A series of footprints led from their original position to a distance of a mile. They fought from the top of the mountain to the foot of the mountain and entered into a dense forest. Chu Li suddenly stepped on a towering tree. He went around the tree and stepped on the treetop. He looked down from above. "Elder Fong, let's stop here. I'll take my leave now." As soon as he finished speaking, he went deep into the forest and disappeared. Elder Fong squinted her bright eyes and glanced at him lazily. She did not chase after him. From the looks of it, Bailey Na was no longer a suspect. However, she trusted her intuition more. There was something wrong with Bailey Na. Even if he was not a spy, he must be hiding something. She must find him out. At this moment, Song Jifan was wearing a green robe and a golden crown. He was at the border of 100,000 hills. He took out a green jade box. It was about the size of a palm. It was warm and shiny as if autumn water was flowing in it. He slowly opened the small box. A golden bead the size of a fist appeared. In an instant, spiritual energy surged. Dense spiritual energy surged from all directions. Clouds appeared in the sky. In the blink of an eye, a sea of spiritual energy had formed. Chapter 1665. Song Jifan took a deep breath and showed an excited expression. There was only one spirit tiger elixir in the Changshan sect, and it was extremely precious. He was able to have such a profound cultivation at such a young age because of this spirit tiger elixir. With the help of this elixir, he could immerse himself in the spiritual ocean and cultivate at a very fast speed, much faster than in the 100,000 hills. When others were in the spiritual ocean, they would feel like they were trapped in a huge wave and could not hold on for more than a few breaths. However, because of the golden crown on his head, he could ignore the pressure and monstrous aura and could cultivate in it calmly. This golden crown was the real treasure. It was a divine item that was passed down by the bishop of the Chongshan sect. As soon as the spirit tiger elixir appeared, he calmed down and immediately stepped forward into the 100,000 hills. The existence of the spirit tiger elixir was no different from a spirit tiger. Wherever it passed, the spirit beasts seemed to have disappeared. The spirit beasts' intuition was sharper and stronger than that of humans. They sensed the aura of the spirit tiger elixir from afar and avoided it so that Song Jifan could not see it. Song Jifan realized that even with the spirit tiger elixir, he could not find the spirit beasts. The spirit beasts that were not afraid of the spirit tiger elixir would not be weaker than the second rank or even the first rank. He did not have the guts to provoke such spirit beasts. He only wanted to find a few spirit beasts below the second rank to devour. The spirit beasts were far stronger than humans. After devouring them, he would definitely surpass Chu Li and beat him up. As soon as he thought about beating Chu Li into a sorry state, he felt energized and continued to stride forward. After walking for 100 miles, he frowned. Everywhere he passed was quiet, and there were only some strange flowers and plants. However, he wasn't interested in them. He didn't lack spirit pills or medicines. He only lacked spirit beasts. He stopped and thought for a while. He decided to keep the spirit tiger elixir and devour a few spirit beasts with his cultivation. When the first-rank spirit beasts sensed that he was an enlightened master, he would take out the spirit tiger elixir to bluff his way through. Thinking about this, he took out a jade box and put the spirit tiger elixir inside. The enlightened master's field spread out. Woo! A loud roar was heard. He shivered inexplicably, and his entire body tensed up. Every single hair on his body stood on end, and a chill ran down his spine from the top of his head to his entire body. He couldn't help but have a strong urge to turn around and run. However, when he touched the warm jade box in his bosom, he regained his composure. Then, he recalled how he had beaten Chu Li up so badly that he peed in his pants. Once again, he perked up and continued to stride into the mountains. He wanted to devour 1 or 2 small beasts before those high-grade spirit beasts arrived. Whoa! An earth-shattering roar suddenly appeared in front of him. Song Jifan's expression changed slightly as 10 spirit tigers, 10 cheilants and 10 vermilion birds appeared above his head. They stepped on the void and stood beneath the clouds, completely blocking the sunlight above him and forming a shadow that enveloped him. The spirit beasts looked down at him from thousands of meters away. Their gazes were calm, as if they were looking at an ant. Song Jifan quickly took out the jade box from his bosom and took out the spirit tiger elixir. Suddenly, the sea of spiritual energy surged and the spirit tiger's aura filled the air, completely covering his aura. He raised his head and looked at the spirit beasts. The spirit beasts didn't look very tall. Although they were standing on the clouds, he wasn't afraid. As long as he had the spirit tiger elixir, he could hide from the spirit beasts. Spirit beasts could not be identified by their appearance, but by their spirit beast elixir. Some spirit beasts had the ability to change their appearance, but their spirit beast elixir couldn't. He quietly sized up the spirit beasts. As time passed, they didn't attack, which made him calmer and more confident. He sighed in his heart. It seemed that his method really wouldn't work. These spirit beasts were too sensitive to the aura of an enlightened master. Moreover, the speed of first-rank spirit beasts and supreme-rank spirit beasts was too shocking. It was impossible for him to catch and devour spirit beasts in a short time. Could it be that his trip was going to be in vain? At the thought of this, he was extremely unwilling. In the end, he snorted and stared at the spirit beasts. After they left, he decided to continue hiding the spirit tiger elixir and go into the 100,000 mountains at full speed. He was sure that there would be some gains. Woo! The angry roar sounded again. Then, 10 spiritual energy bullets crossed thousands of meters and appeared in front of him. Bang! Song Jifan couldn't dodge in time and could only face it with all his might. He was directly hit and flew 100 meters away. He spat out a mouthful of blood in the air. He gripped the spirit tiger elixir tightly, afraid that he would lose it. Once he let go, he would definitely die. He desperately thought about what was going on. Why did they attack him? Could it be that they were enemies of the spirit tiger? However, the spirit tiger was among those spirit beasts. As fellow spirit beasts, they should be helping each other. Or did they recognize him and think that he was a fake? He then shook his head. No matter how smart the spirit beasts were, they couldn't change their basic habit. As long as he had the spirit tiger elixir, they would think that he was the spirit tiger. Could it be that they were testing him? At the thought of this, he nodded with certainty. It should be a test. Otherwise, these spirit beasts would attack him together. As soon as he thought of this, dense spiritual energy suddenly appeared around him. Some were like a ball of flame, some were like a pool of water, and some were faintly roaring in the shape of a tiger. All of them had an aura that could shake one's heart. If it wasn't for the golden crown on his head, he wouldn't have been able to withstand the pressure of these auras and would have directly fainted. An enlightened master couldn't withstand a single blow from these auras and was instantly defeated. However, he had the golden crown to suppress them and was not forced by the auras. He only had to face the spiritual energy attacks of these spirit beasts. Even so, he didn't dare to take it head-on. He activated the lightning manipulation step and turned into a stream of light, wanting to escape. However, the speed of these spiritual energy was even faster. Before he could escape, he was instantly caught by a stream of water. Instantly, his body was covered in a layer of white frost and he turned into an ice sculpture. Then, a few auras attacked him. Bang! His left arm exploded and turned into powder. He disappeared on the spot and appeared 10 meters away in the next moment. His face was as pale as ice and his eyes were filled with fear. He didn't expect these spiritual energy to lock the space. His blood escape art actually failed, losing his arm in exchange for only 10 meters, and these 10 meters could only delay him in the blink of an eye. In the next moment, these spiritual energy shrouded him again. Just as he was about to put the spirit tiger pill into his clothes, it was too late. His right arm exploded with a bang. Before the spirit tiger pill landed on the ground, he had already appeared 10 meters away. His body quickly shriveled and became shorter and skinnier like a mummy. Before those auras could reach him, he suddenly shouted and the golden crown on his head emitted a dazzling golden light. When the golden light disappeared and the surroundings became dark again, he had already disappeared. He had completely left the 100,000 mountains and escaped the joint attack of the spirit beasts. The spirit beasts stood on the clouds and didn't come down. They only looked in the direction where he disappeared. The spirit tiger pill that fell on the ground floated up and slowly landed in front of a spirit tiger that was as large as a giant elephant. The spirit tiger stepped on the void, and its fur fluttered as if there was a strong wind following it. Chapter 1666. Bang! Song Jifan fell heavily in a forest. Because it was adjacent to the 100,000 mountains, the spiritual energy was rich, and the apricot forest was overgrown with weeds. The sound he made when he fell on the thick grass was dull, but the thick and soft grass protected him. He lay motionless on the ground as if he were dead. His withered body had no arms, and his green robe was swaying on his body like a child wearing an adult's clothes. It was indescribably awkward. After a long time, He raised his wrinkled face and roared to the sky, "Ah dash!" He wanted to hit the ground, but he had no arms, so he could only kick the grass. The grass was messy, and the green juice stained his white boot. "Ah!" He howled furiously like a wounded wolf, and it was tragic and desolate. He came with enthusiasm and hope, but he fled miserably. He was forced to give up his arms, lose hundreds of years of life, and even his most precious golden crown was damaged. It was really a terrible defeat. He shook his hair gently, and the golden crown fell to the ground. Looking at the golden crown that had lost its luster, as if it had lost its golden essence and become ordinary iron, he felt as if his heart was being twisted. Then, he saw that a gem embedded in the golden crown had shattered. His eyes were bloodshot, and he was in so much pain that he wanted to die. "Ah dash!" He roared to the sky, spat out a cloud of blood, and fell to the ground softly. At this moment, he had the idea of committing suicide. But once he committed suicide, he would be too ashamed to see his ancestors when he went to the human realm beyond heaven, so he couldn't die yet. He lay on the ground motionlessly. After a long time, a deer ran over lightly. Seeing him lying on the ground, it immediately came over curiously. Its clear eyes were bright, pure, and innocent, and it didn't seem to be afraid of people at all. Song Jifan suddenly opened his blood-red eyes and stared at the deer. The deer was sensitive. As soon as it sensed his murderous intent, it hurriedly ran at a fast speed. But no matter how fast it was not as fast as Song Jifan. Although he was withered like a dying man, Song Jifan's injuries were all transferred by his body, so he wasn't as weak as he had imagined. His movement technique was still surprisingly fast, and he instantly caught up with the deer. He sighed inwardly. He was in extreme despair, lamenting that his life was no better than death. Unexpectedly, a deer with such spiritual energy was sent to him. The heavens really did not abandon him. After devouring it, his arms would be able to regrow and return to their original state. It was just like when Chu Li had chopped off one of his arms and exploded the other to escape. The newly regrown arm was not weak at all. At that time, he had devoured 4 grandmasters, but now he only needed a fawn because this fawn was full of spiritual energy and was on the verge of becoming a spirit beast. He was just a step away from becoming a spirit beast. The flesh and blood of spirit beasts were a great supplement, especially to him. One spirit beast was equivalent to 10 or even 20 grandmasters. This was the unique advantage of spirit beasts. The deer cried out in panic as it fell into Song Jifan's hands. The smile on Song Jifan's withered face grew wider and wider, and his eyes shone with excitement. Ing! Suddenly, the cry of a deer could be heard nearby. A green deer turned into a ray of green light and shot towards Song Jifan. It swung its head gracefully in the air and hit Song Jifan with its antlers. Song Jifan was thrown out like a broken cloth bag and crashed heavily into an apricot tree. The golden apricots fell to the ground. Song Jifan's withered face was twisted in pain. Not only was the impact of the antlers extremely painful, but there were also 2 strange forces that drilled into his body. It was like a knife cutting his body. He was in so much pain that he wished he could just kill himself. Ing! The fawn cried out at the green deer. The green deer used its long antlers to touch the fawn and turned to look at Song Jifan. It then turned into a ray of green light and shot towards Song Jifan. Song Jifan was once again thrown out like a broken cloth bag and crashed lightly into another apricot tree. Gotcha! The apricot tree broke in half. After Song Jifan landed on the ground, there was no longer any signs of life. Ing! The fawn happily jumped a few times and happily left with the green deer. After 2 hours, Song Jifan slowly woke up. The wrinkles on his face became more and more complicated. His aura was weak, as if he could be blown away by a gust of wind and could die at any moment. Song Jifan sighed and shook his body, wanting to take out the only life-saving elixir he had. This elixir was a life-saving elixir. It was the only one that could save his life at the most critical moment. At this time, he had no choice but to take it. Otherwise, he might not be able to last until he used the art of eternal youth. However, after shaking for a long time, he didn't see the jade bottle fall out of his chest. So, he shook his green robe lightly, revealing only his snow-white undershirt. Looking at the empty green robe on the ground, his face was so gloomy that it could drip water. Because his body had shrunk, his clothes were now empty. Originally, he had been able to hold the medicine bottle, but now he couldn't. He had never used the unaging live forever technique in such an intense way, and was inexperienced. As a result, he dropped the only life-saving spirit medicine he had. Ah! He roared at the sky. He got up and kicked the ground with all his might. One by one, the apricot trees were broken and fell to the ground. After a while, he slowly stopped. His face was red and he was panting. After venting his anger, he calmed down. The art of eternal youth could devour blood essence and inner energy, but it could also devour spiritual energy. The spiritual energy here was much richer than anywhere else. Cultivating here was 10 times faster than anywhere else. With his injuries, as long as he cultivated properly, he would be able to recover a bit of strength in a few days. When that time came, he could go and deal with the grandmasters and devour them to recover his arms. No matter how miserable he was still an enlightened master. However, he could forget about the spirit beasts. He was traumatized by them and didn't want to see them again. He didn't want to devour them either. He couldn't afford to provoke them. Grandmasters were better. Thinking about this, he leaped onto the treetops and found a mountain peak. Then, he sat on the mountain peak and looked down at the land. As he gazed into the distance, his mind was broadened. But when he looked at the boundless mountains to the east, he saw the towering peaks that seemed to reach the sky. It was the location of the 10,000 great mountains. He couldn't help but feel suffocated and his face became gloomy again. He scoffed coldly, but he couldn't think of revenge. The difference was too big. Now that the golden crown was damaged, he didn't dare to face the spirit beasts in the 100,000 hills. He was already an enlightened master, but he was no different from a child in front of them. He would never be able to surpass them. He let out a long sigh and closed his eyes. He began to circulate the art of eternal youth. Chuli suddenly appeared and silently sat on another mountain peak. Under the observation of the omniscient mirror, Song Jifan's blood essence and inner energy flow were as clear as palm lines. The heart technique of the art of eternal youth was extremely complicated. Song Jifan directly circulated the 9th level. It was so complicated that it was dazzling. If he didn't do it himself, even if he drew a cultivation diagram, it would be difficult for others to see it clearly. This was because the route was repeated many times in one meridian. Moreover, the speed of circulation in each meridian was different. Movement and stillness alternated. This kind of fire control was a great test of one's comprehension. Chuli felt that the speed of circulation was different for each person. He needed to combine it with his own body to change it. Chapter 1667. Although the art of eternal youth was evil and overbearing, it was also exquisite. Chuli wanted to learn it not only for his own cultivation, but also for other reasons. One was the heaven-killing sword, and the heart technique of the heaven-killing script was likely related to the art of eternal youth. Without the art of eternal youth, it would be difficult to control the heaven-killing script. Secondly, it was his ambition and plan. He sat on the peak and hid himself. He used the omniscient mirror to observe the operation of the art of eternal youth and tried to use it himself. Pfft! He suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood. He shook his head and smiled bitterly. It was not that easy. Many of the meridians in the 9th level of the unaging live forever technique were blocked. Furthermore, the meridians were extremely weak and could be fatal. If it weren't for his invincible Vajra body, he would have already collapsed to the ground, and perhaps even experienced cultivation deviation. He frowned. It seemed that he had to start from the first level and progress step by step. The first few levels trained these meridians and even opened them slowly with special technique. Without the first few levels, even if he had the invincible Vajra body, he would not be able to do anything if he rashly cultivated the later levels. He shook his head and sighed. He gave up on cultivating. The life and death scripture could not help him. Even if he were to use the life and death scripture to heal himself, he would still be in his original state. His meridians wouldn't be able to open up, and he would continue to be injured. The cycle wouldn't change, and he wouldn't be able to cultivate the 9th level of the ageless live forever technique. He pondered for a moment and was eager to do something. He had an urge to appear in front of Song Jifan and force him to tell him the heart technique of the art of eternal youth. He could force him from the 2nd level to the 8th level and then cultivate it himself. It would be easier. As soon as he thought of it, he suddenly appeared and coughed lightly. Song Jifan was shocked. The art of eternal youth sped up. He slowly opened his eyes and his expression changed. "It's you." Chu Li smiled. "It's me. Long time no see. Why is Leader Song so miserable?" "Chu Li, how did you find me?" Song Jifan frowned. As an enlightened master, his location could not be predicted. The God's field also restrained divine powers. How did Chu Li find him? He had to figure this out or he would not have peace in the future. Chu Li shook his head. "Do you think the God's field can restrain all divine powers?" "Why not?" Song Jifan scoffed. He circulated the unaging live forever technique with all his might to speed up his recovery. His heart was filled with despair. This despicable bastard had come at a deadly time, and he didn't even have the strength to fight back. Even if he could fight back, he might not be able to defeat him. Most importantly, the golden crown that could block Chu Li's strange attack was already damaged. Once the gemstone was cracked, there was no way it could be repaired. In front of Chu Li, there was no way it could fight back at all. He was determined. As long as Chu Li told him the reason, he would escape first. Chu Li said, "Cult leader Song is very knowledgeable, so you should have heard of the all-knowing scripture, right?" "All-knowing scripture?" Song Jifan frowned and nodded slowly. "You've cultivated the all-knowing scripture?" Chu Li nodded and smiled. "You have a hint of the fragrance that I sprinkled on you. You should know what happened next. Youth Song Master Song. Jifan Master Jifan Youth. I have you." Chu Li chuckled. "As long as we can find cult leader Song, it doesn't matter if we're despicable or not. It's as if cult leader Song is much more noble. Let's not talk about the boss anymore." "Master. Leader Masterly Kingdom Youth." Chu Li said, "It's simple. Hand over 2 things and I'll let you go, Leader Song." "You'll let me go?" Song Jifan sneered with a look of disbelief. Chu Li nodded. "Actually, there are too many opportunities to kill you. You should understand." Song Jifan's expression changed slightly and he fell silent. He also felt that Chu Li could have killed him, but he had let him go. It was quite unbelievable. Chu Li said, "What if you die and the heaven-killing technique is lost? You want to obtain the heaven-slaughtering art?" Song Jifan asked solemnly. Chu Li said slowly, "As a man who doesn't want to kill enlightened masters like killing chickens. Everyone has such a dream, right? How about it, Cult Master Song? As long as you hand over the heaven-murdering art, I'll let you go. You're not a threat to me, so I don't need to kill you. Hand over the heaven-killing art and my life will be gone." Song Jifan sneered. "Do you think I'm stupid?" Chu Li said, "All right then, I'll settle for the next best thing. Hand over the ageless longevity technique." Impossible! Song Jifan snorted. Chu took 2 steps forward and got closer to him, bringing with it a stronger sense of oppression. As an enlightened master, Song Jifan actually felt oppressed in the enlightened God field, as if he was facing a powerful spirit beast. He knew that Chu was stronger than him, and he was too weak to fight back. With a thought, he was about to detonate his left leg to escape. Just as he was thinking, Chu swung his hands lightly. TSS, TSS. 2 electric lights flashed, and his left and right legs suddenly left his body. Chu shook his head and smiled. Cult Master Song, I've used this move. You! Song Jifan clenched his teeth and stared at him. He had lost both his arms and legs, but he could still hold on with his inner energy. The roots of his legs that were cut off had already stopped bleeding. The ageless longevity technique had precise control over the body. Chu said, "What's the 8th level of the heart technique?" The omniscient mirror clearly saw into Song Jifan's mind. The ageless longevity technique had already become Song Jifan's instinct. He did not need to think at all, and the 8th level of the heart technique naturally appeared in his mind. Chu scoffed. "What's the 7th level of the heart technique?" He did not wait for Song Jifan to think and immediately shouted, "The 6th level? The 5th level?" His words came one after another like an avalanche. He did not give Song Jifan a chance to react, and could only subconsciously flash through his mind. This was enough for Chu to imprint. "The 2nd level?" Chu was excited and shouted. Song Jifan looked at him as if he was an idiot. "Are you crazy?" Chu did not wait for him to speak. He only cared about himself and directly asked from the 8th level to the 2nd level. It was as if he was in an illusion and talking to himself, which made him feel strange. Chu scoffed. "Cult Master Song, your golden crown is a treasure, right? What is it made of? You want to know?" Song Jifan smiled faintly. He made up his mind and laughed. "In your dreams." Chu frowned. "You still have this attitude at this point. Are you asking for death?" "That's right, I want to die." Song Jifan laughed. "Chu, I'm just unlucky. If not, you would be kneeling on the ground and begging for mercy." Chu shook his head and laughed. "Do you really think you can get away with it in 100,000 hills?" "Humph, 100,000 hills." Song Jifan clenched his teeth. If it was in the past, he would not care about it. He felt that with the Spirit Tiger pill and the Golden Crown, he could freely enter and exit 100,000 hills and become an inexhaustible source of power for himself. Who would have thought that the world was difficult and wishful thinking did not work? These spirit beasts were so difficult to deal with that they could actually distinguish between the Spirit Tiger pill and the Enlightened Master. Chu said, "Are you the only one who knows about the heaven slaughtering technique? Just give up." Song Jifan sneered. "Do you really think you can do anything to me? Goodbye." Chapter 1668. Chu looked at the spot where Song Jifan disappeared and shook his head. He took a deep breath and smiled. He sat where Song Jifan was sitting and began to circulate the art of longevity. He started from the 1st level, then the 2nd, the 3rd, the 4th, all the way to the 5th level in one go. While he was cultivating the art of longevity, a spirit tiger appeared above the ice lake in the 100,000 mountains. It was as huge as an elephant and its eyes were filled with electricity. It stood in the air leisurely and looked at the trembling white dragon and spirit-devouring turtle. After looking down at the 2 beasts for a long time, the spirit tiger suddenly spat out 2 streams of white gas at the 2 beasts. The white dragon and spirit-devouring turtle wanted to dodge, but they didn't make it in time. After the white gas entered their bodies, the 2 beasts started to tremble like sieves. After a long time, they slowly stopped. A pungent smell came from their bodies and lingered for a long time. The eyes of the 2 spirit beasts sparkled as they looked at the spirit tiger excitedly, revealing looks of gratitude. Both of them could feel that they had become much stronger. Roar! The spirit tiger suddenly let out a long roar. Instantly, it echoed in the sky. A moment later, another spirit tiger appeared in the air. This spirit tiger was much smaller than the original one. It was a head shorter and had a much shorter length as well. It stood in the air with an elegant demeanor. It held 2 black fruits in its mouth. They were about the size of a fist, and were irregularly round, as if they were deformed. They didn't look like anything good at all. The 2 spirit beasts sized up the 2 fruits curiously and looked at the female spiritual tiger curiously. The male spirit tiger let out a low growl. The female spirit tiger let go and the 2 fruits fell down. Suddenly, they turned into 2 streams of black light and shot into the mouths of the white dragon and spirit-devouring turtle respectively. The 2 beasts were stunned, but before they could spit them out, the fruits had already turned into a burning hot aura and entered their stomachs. The white dragon and spirit-devouring turtle were in unbearable pain, as if they had fallen into a sea of fire. They wanted to die. The white dragon wanted to roll on the ground, but was restrained by an invisible force. The spirit-devouring turtle tried to reduce its pain by ramming into the mountains beside it. However, the male spirit tiger stepped on its shell and it couldn't move. The white dragon and the spirit-engulfing turtle couldn't even make a sound. They could only endure the pain and feel as if every day was a year. The white dragon's snow-white scales began to fall off one by one, revealing its naked body, which was trembling slightly. After a long while, a green scale slowly condensed and covered the lower part of his neck. It was exactly where the reverse scale was. Then, more green scales slowly condensed and completely wrapped around his neck. In the end, it turned into an azure dragon. The spirit-devouring turtle's shell was slowly shrinking, and the strange patterns on its shell were slowly twisting and changing, becoming more and more complex and bizarre. As the shell shrank, the patterns became more and more concentrated, to the point where it was impossible to see them clearly. In the end, the entire shell was dyed azure, and no longer had its original pale yellow color. The tortoise shell shrunk faster and faster. In the end, the giant tortoise that was like a hill became a turtle the size of a washbasin. At first glance, it looked like an ordinary tortoise in the river. It did not feel like a spirit beast at all. It became ordinary and extremely confusing. As the tortoise shell shrank, the male spiritual tiger shrank as well, turning into an exquisite tiger. After a long while, it suddenly leaped into the air and returned to its original mammoth-like form. The wind and clouds surged along with it. The 2 spirit beasts slowly calmed down. Their bodies felt warm and comfortable, as if they were soaking in spring water. It felt like Chu-Li was using the dragon taming technique. They could not help but squint their eyes, revealing an expression of enjoyment. Roar! The male spiritual tiger let out a low growl. The 2 spirit beasts shuddered and quickly opened their eyes to feel their own bodies. They were instantly excited. They both felt that they had advanced half a level, from the original 2 levels to 1.5 levels. As long as they advanced another half a level, they would be able to become rank 1 spirit beast. It would be an earth-shattering change. Roar, roar! The azure dragon and the spirit-engulfing turtle let out a roar at the same time. Their voices echoed throughout the sky, expressing their gratitude. After a spirit beast advanced to rank 2, it was extremely difficult to advance to rank 1. It was even more difficult than becoming an enlightened master. The 100,000 hills was too big, so the rank 1 spirit beasts and supreme spirit beasts were not small. However, it did not mean that it was easy. Now that the 2 spirit beasts had advanced half a level, it saved them thousands of years of hard cultivation. The white dragon became the azure dragon, and the spirit-engulfing turtle became the spirit-engulfing turtle. This was already a fundamental change, and it was an extremely difficult change, so they were extremely grateful. The male spiritual tiger let out a low growl and explained to them that this was their reward for delivering the message. There was no need to thank them. With their message, the Spirit Tiger clan finally gained another member. It also prevented the Spirit Tiger clan from becoming a laughingstock and being ridiculed by the spirit beasts of the 100,000 Hills. The two spirit beasts still expressed their gratitude. The two spirit tigers stepped on the white clouds and slowly rose into the sky, then suddenly disappeared. The azure dragon and the spirit engulfing turtle let out a low growl and dived into the ice pool. They fought again, and the waves of the ice pool surged into the sky. While the two spirit beasts were fighting, Chu-Li suddenly appeared. The azure dragon suddenly soared into the sky. With a wriggle, it appeared under Chu-Li and carried him into the sky. The clouds carried a man and a beast, and they were as fast as lightning. In an instant they appeared in Jueyuan Valley. Chu-Li could not help but laugh. He activated the dragon taming technique and felt a sense of familiarity. The white dragon had transformed into an azure dragon, and now its speed was not inferior to the void diversion. It was really fortunate. In the future, he would also have the ability to escape unscathed and could fly freely in the 100,000 Hills. As long as he did not cause trouble, he would not have to worry about danger. Through the communication with the azure dragon, he found out about the spirit tiger's gratitude. He could not help but feel emotional. It seemed that he had taken the right step. Not only did he ruin Song Jifan's wishful thinking, but he also benefited from it. It was a pity that he did not get the Spirit Tiger pill. However, the Spirit Tiger pill was not too useful to him. He did not lack the spiritual energy ocean, so he could cultivate in the 100,000 Hills. However, there was still a trace of regret. The Spirit Tiger pill must have other miraculous effects, but he just did not know about it. When he turned his head, the vitality-devouring tortoise had already appeared behind him. It was only the size of a washbasin and looked much smaller and cuter. Chu-Li smiled and patted the azure dragon, indicating that it was better to return to the 100,000 Hills. They had just obtained benefits and needed to consolidate their cultivation in the environment of the 100,000 Hills to prevent it from falling. The azure dragon soared into the sky again like a flash of lightning. In the blink of an eye, it had already returned to the sky above the ice pool. Then, it slowly descended. It was carried by the clouds as if it was being carried by a sedan bearer. It was indescribably leisurely. Chu-Li's gaze suddenly fell on a small azure sparrow. This azure sparrow was only the size of a fist. Its slender body was small and delicate, and its intelligent eyes were like glistening gems. There was no spiritual energy fluctuation on its body, as if it was an ordinary bird. However, Chu-Li felt that something was wrong. There were no ordinary wild beasts in the 100,000 Hills. They were all spirit beasts. No matter how small a bird was, it was still a spirit beast. This one was indeed a little too ordinary, and there was a sense of alarm in his heart. After the god-slaying sword was formed, his senses became sharper, and he trusted his intuition more. Chapter 1669. He was immediately alerted. There was something very wrong with this small and delicate bird. It was very dangerous. It exchanged glances with Chu-Li and suddenly flew into the sky as if it was going far away. It moved as fast as lightning and reached a height of 100 meters in the blink of an eye. Then, with a loud bang, the bird suddenly grew more than 10 times its original size to the size of a spirit crane. Its entire body was warm and white with a hint of redness as if it was carved out of red jade. It floated in the void without moving as if it had turned into a red jade statue. It floated in the air without flapping its wings and looked down at Chu-Li with its clear eyes. A name suddenly flashed in Chu-Li's mind. Vermilion Bird. Chu-Li could not care less about what it was going to do next. He appeared next to the azure dragon in a flash and placed his left hand on its back before disappearing with it. The next moment, He appeared next to the vitality-devouring tortoise and placed his right hand on its shell to disappear. The azure dragon and the vitality-devouring tortoise were already trembling and could not move, as if they were paralyzed from fear. This was the fundamental suppression of a superior spirit beast over an inferior spirit beast. It was an uncontrollable instinctive reaction, just like how humans would tense up when they saw a giant snake. In the void, the vermilion bird's eyes flickered with flames as if it was real. It stared coldly at Chu Li. Bang! Chu Li's vision turned black and his chest felt stuffy. He realized that he could not break through the void and almost fainted from the impact. When he regained consciousness, he realized that his surroundings had been occupied by the spirit sea. The vermilion bird's spirit sea had enveloped a human and two beasts. Chu Li felt as if he was immersed in magma. His body was bound by the magma and could not move. The scorching heat spread from his body to his soul. He could endure the physical pain, but the pain in his soul was unbearable. He almost screamed at the sky. The azure dragon and the vitality-devouring tortoise's bodies emitted a faint brilliance. The azure dragon emitted a green light while the vitality-devouring tortoise emitted a black light. Both of them were 3 feet away from their bodies to protect themselves from the erosion of the spirit sea. They could faintly feel Chu Li's pain when they saw his distorted face. Therefore, they ignored their instinctive reactions and rushed toward the vermilion bird in the void. As soon as the green dragon energy-devouring tortoises flew into the air, their spiritual ocean suddenly surged like flowing lava, forming a huge turbulent force that pushed them backward. They could not help but step away from the vermilion bird and Chu Li. The brilliance on their bodies began to shrink until it was only a foot away from their bodies. Chu Li felt even more pained. When he saw that the two beasts could not get close to the vermilion bird, he wanted to get closer to them. As long as he could get close to the azure dragon or the vitality-devouring tortoise, their protective energy barriers would be able to protect him. Furthermore, the combination of the dragon-taming art and the two spirit beasts would allow them to unleash even greater power. Perhaps they would be able to stop the vermilion bird. However, the vermilion bird floating in the air seemed to have seen through his thoughts. The spiritual chi sea surged like a huge wave, and he couldn't help but retreat. The distance between him and the two spirit beasts was getting farther and farther, and his heart was in despair. The scorching heat became more and more intense, and the pain almost made him think that he had already turned into ashes. In his despair, an idea flashed through his mind. An enormous withering glory tree suddenly appeared in the void of his mind, towering into the endless void. When the withering glory tree appeared, he calmed his mind. Even though the burning pain in his soul was still there, he no longer panicked. The supreme Vajra leaped onto one of the tree forks of the life and death scripture, and the 9th level of the indestructible titanium heart technique began to circulate. Previously, he had cultivated the 8th level in the Thunderbolt, but he did not manage to cultivate the 9th level. Now that the 9th level of the indestructible titanium heart technique was activated, the first 8 levels were cast aside. His body no longer had any power to resist, and it was empty, allowing the spiritual ocean to corrode it. His body seemed to be burning. Chu Li gritted his teeth and desperately circulated the 9th level of the indestructible titanium. Every inch of his body seemed to be burning, turning into flames and dying. Under the urging of the life and death scripture, he was reborn, burned again, and died again. The cycle repeated. The 9th level of the heart technique circulated endlessly, once, twice, thrice. After circulating it 36 times in one go, his body suddenly tensed up, and every inch of his body seemed to have undergone a strange change. Every inch of his body seemed to be a small dantian that accumulated the inner energy of the supreme Vajra scripture. It was pure and wonderful, and it formed an endless sea of inner energy that covered every part of his body. The life and death scripture desperately absorbed the spiritual energy from beyond the heavens. At first glance, it looked like a huge vermilion pillar that connected the top of Chu Li's head and the void. The vermilion bird looked up at the void, as if it had seen this vermilion pillar. It let out a clear cry that resounded through the void. Then, an enormous force that could topple mountains and overturn seas came crashing down, as if a mountain had fallen on their bodies. In an instant, their vision darkened and they felt suffocated. Mahavairokkana's immovable Buddha opened its eyes and formed a mudra with both of its hands. It slowly chanted the scripture, and the enormous force that was pressing down on his body suddenly disappeared. Chu Li felt relaxed, and he calmly looked up at the vermilion bird. Chu Li was not that concerned about Song Jifan's golden crown because he had the Mahavairokkana's immovable Buddha's immovable Buddha. Even if he was sitting in the spiritual ocean, he would not be oppressed by its majestic aura, and he could face it calmly. He glanced at the azure dragon and the vitality-devouring turtle in the distance, and his expression changed slightly. The azure dragon and the vitality-devouring turtle were lying on the ground, motionless. The protective splendor was stuck tightly to their bodies, almost shrinking into them. If this went on, they would not be able to protect themselves if he exerted even a little more force. Chu Li was anxious, and he struggled to move forward in the turbulent spiritual ocean. He wanted to get closer to the two spirit beasts and use the dragon taming technique to help them. Although his 9 layers indestructible body of Vajra could withstand the erosion of the spiritual Qi Sea, the power contained in the spiritual Qi Sea was so vast that he could hardly resist it. Every step he took was very strenuous, and he had to use all his strength. Step by step, the distance between him and the azure dragon and the vitality-devouring turtle was shortened from 20 meters, and then 10 meters. Now there were only 5 steps left. Before Chu Li could rejoice, the azure dragon and the vitality-devouring turtle were suddenly pushed away, and they were 20 meters away again. Chu Li looked up at the vermilion bird. The vermilion bird's burning eyes were cold and merciless, as if it was looking at a dead man. It was confused that Chu Li could withstand its spiritual ocean and pressure, but it wanted to kill Chu Li even more, and its gaze became colder. Chu Li gritted his teeth and moved forward again, but when he was 5 steps away, the 2 spirit beasts were pushed away again, as if they were playing tricks on him. Chu Li suppressed the urge to use the god-killing blade. Although he had suffered, he did not die, so his killing intent was not that strong. Moreover, he had concerns. If he killed the vermilion bird, which was a rank 1 spirit beast, he would definitely incur the wrath of the spirit beasts of 100,000 hills, and they would hunt him down. He did not know how much trouble it would cause. If they ran out of 100,000 hills to hunt him down, none of the people around him would survive. Looking at the vermilion bird's body, which was white with a hint of red, it was obvious that it had not reached supreme grade. A real vermilion bird was a supreme grade spirit beast, and its entire body would be red, but this one's body was only white with a hint of red. It was obvious that it had not reached that level and was probably still rank 1. Seeing that Chu Li was being toyed with so much difficulty, the azure dragon and the vitality-devouring turtle cried out in fear. The azure dragon let out a long roar, and the vitality-devouring turtle raised its head and roared. Chu Li's expression changed, and he knew that this was bad. Chapter 1670. Chu Li's expression changed. He let out a long howl that was filled with rage. The vermilion bird remained suspended in the air like a jade statue and let out a soft cry. A voice suddenly echoed in Chu Li's mind. I hate the spirit beast sect the most. Everyone from the spirit beast sect deserves to die. Chu Li glared at it. His murderous intent surged like lava and gradually condensed into a god-slaying sword in his mind. An antique and beautiful long sword floated in the void of his mind. The life and death scripture faded away, and the Supreme King Kong returned to its original position in the void of his mind. The 9th level of the indestructible body of titanium was still circulating. At this point, he could no longer restrain his murderous intent. He stabbed the god-slaying sword. Ding! A clear chime echoed in the surroundings. The vermilion bird swayed in the void. Confusion flashed in its eyes as the red flames faded. A cinnabar-like feather drifted down. The spiritual ocean quickly retreated and disappeared. Chu-Li instantly appeared beside the green dragon and the vitality-devouring turtle. He held one in each hand and disappeared. The vermilion bird regained its footing in the void. Flames appeared in its eyes again as the spiritual ocean recovered. However, it could no longer find Chu-Li and the green dragon vitality-devouring turtle. They had escaped. It looked at the cinnabar-colored feather on the ground with anger in its eyes. This was its mother's feather. It was a divine item that could protect one's soul. However, it was destroyed by a disciple of the spirit beast sect. It was unforgivable. It suddenly spat out a spiritual energy. The spiritual energy turned into a ball of flame in the air and started burning around the ice pool. It melted the mountains around the ice pool and turned them into hot water that fell into the ice pool. The ice pool changed color and was no longer as clear as it was before. Only then did it transform into a small bird in satisfaction and hide in the forest on the opposite mountain peak. It knew that Chu-Li and the azure dragon origin-devouring turtle would definitely return, and it would not let them off so easily next time. It would definitely burn that fellow from the spirit beast sect to ashes. Chu-Li and the green dragon vitality-devouring turtle suddenly appeared in the wheel pagoda. Then, he pulled the green dragon vitality-devouring turtle's soul into the void of his mind. Inside the wheel pagoda they had a higher level of comprehension. This allowed them to comprehend the esoteric of life and death. They could reverse life and death and regain their vitality. The power of the vermilion bird's 2 mouthfuls of spiritual chi was astonishing. It actually killed 2 spirit beasts in one go. One had to know that they were already rank 1.5 spirit beasts. They were only half a rank away from becoming first-rank spirit beasts. Yet, they couldn't even withstand a single blow from the spirit beast. Clearly, the gap between them was beyond imagination. Just thinking about the strength of a super-rank spirit beast sent chills down his spine. If the vermilion bird's mouthful of spiritual energy were to be sprayed on his body, his Vajra indestructible body might not be able to withstand it. Fortunately, he had the life and death scripture. As long as his soul wasn't destroyed and his head wasn't chopped off, there was always a chance for him to come back to life. It was quiet inside the reincarnation temple. Chu-Li sat quietly next to the 2 spirit beasts. He pressed his hands on one beast each and activated the dragon taming technique continuously. At the same time, the essence of the Earth Matrix and reincarnation scripture flashed in his mind. Now that they were rank 1.5 spirit beasts, their level of comprehension was even more astonishing, far surpassing that of humans. Moreover, the Azure Dragon had a deeper understanding of the Earth Matrix and reincarnation scripture. Through the dragon taming technique, Chu-Li linked the 2 spirit beasts' minds and imparted the Azure Dragon's comprehension to the vitality-devouring tortoise. The communication between spirit beasts was smoother, and they had a common language. With the Azure Dragon's help, the spirit-devouring tortoise slowly comprehended the Earth Matrix and reincarnation scripture and the meaning of life and death. As the dragon taming technique circulated, the dragon and the tortoise slowly opened their eyes and regained their vitality. Chu-Li let go of their backs and heaved a long sigh of relief. Then, he lay on a cattail hassock. The scene from before began to replay in his mind. Although it sounded like a long time, it actually happened in a moment. Life and death were decided, and he almost lost his life. The spiritual sea had sealed the void, and he had nowhere to run. He probably couldn't go to 100,000 Hills for the time being. This vermilion bird hated the people of Spirit Beast sect, so it would definitely guard him. Once he appeared, it would come after him. He gritted his teeth and really wanted to kill this vermilion bird. Then, he chuckled. What a god-killing sword! It was so powerful. Perhaps it was because it saw the azure dragon vitality devouring Tortoise's death that it was filled with murderous intent. That was why the god-killing sword was so powerful. However, it was already unexpected that it could hurt a rank 1 spirit beast. If the vermilion bird didn't have a protective treasure, its soul might have been destroyed. Namo Amritpa. A mighty Buddhist chant echoed in the Chakra Pagoda. Monk Luan Ming appeared in the void. His red cowl fluttered in the wind, but he stood firmly in the void. He put his palms together and looked at Chu Li quietly. Chu Li smiled. Luan Ming, we meet again. Monk Luan Ming said slowly, it seems like Almsgiver Chu has already treated the reincarnation temple as your home, and you can come and go as you please. Chu Li smiled. Am I not allowed to come? The reincarnation temple is my temple's forbidden area, a place of inheritance. If outsiders come and go as they please, where does that leave the reincarnation temple? Where does that leave me? Chu Li burst into laughter. All right, Luan Ming. Aren't you saying all this because your skills have increased by several folds, and you think you can kill me? Then try and see if you can kill me. Monk Luan Ming's eyes were bright, and the enlightened master's field was released. The entire rotary pagoda had become an enlightened god's field. Grandmasters felt like they were in a deep pool of mud and had to bear the pain of being squeezed. He carefully observed Chu Li's expression. He was not the same as before. His enlightened god's field had increased by 6-fold. Usually, when he let go of it, all the disciples in the temple would be defenseless and avoid him like snakes or scorpions. Even the most powerful grandmasters could not stand in his enlightened god's field. However, when he saw Chu Li looking at him calmly, Monk Luan Ming felt weak again. Chu Li's prestige was deeply rooted in his heart. A seed of fear had long been planted in his heart. This had nothing to do with the depth of his dermic base. It was an instinctive fear. Unless he could get rid of his true nature and become a Buddha. Chu Li sighed. Tang Su went to look for you, monk? Almsgiver Chu, what do you mean? Monk Luan Ming asked calmly. He decided to delay for a while and use the enlightened god's field to deplete Chu Li's cultivation level. No matter how strong Chu Li was, he was still a grandmaster. As long as he stayed in the enlightened god's field, he would need to channel and deplete his cultivation level. The longer he delayed, the greater the depletion. Chu Li smiled. You're really not like a monk. You've tried so many ways to avoid the precepts, but you're still lying. You're not sincere. Aren't you afraid that Buddha will punish you? That you'll suffer in the future? Monks did not lie. Monk Luan Ming did not lie but chose to tell the truth. It often sounded like it could mislead others and achieve the purpose of lying. Namo Amritpa. Monk Luan Ming shook his head. Having Buddha in your heart and kindness in your heart is in accordance with Buddha's will. Alright, then let's talk about Song Jifan. Chu Li smiled. Tang Su should be looking for you guys to make a move, right? This is a rare opportunity. If you don't seize it, I'm afraid you won't have another chance in the future. Namo Amritpa. Monk Luan Ming shook his head. Almsgiver Chu, please. Forgive me for not sending you off. This place does not welcome Almsgiver Chu. Monk, you don't have to send me off. I'll be back. Chu Li smiled. Chapter 1671. When Song Jifan was escaping from Chu Li, he did not forget to roll up the golden crown in his sleeves in a panic. Thus, he did not lose the golden crown. If he lost the golden crown, it would be a great blow to his prestige as a bishop. The elders in the church were not convinced by him and were dissatisfied with his decision. He sat on the armchair in the empty basilica and took a deep breath. Those stubborn old men were all greedy for comfort and had been corrupted by comfort. They no longer had the drive to make progress. They would rather stay in the floating mountains and ignore the glory of the Chongqing denomination. They were so lazy that they asked their descendants to solve all the problems. After he decided to walk out of the floating mountain and unify the martial arts world, he was opposed by most of them. Unfortunately, as a cult master, he had this kind of power. This golden crown was a symbol of power and was the representative of a cult master. Once it was lost, these old fellows would definitely seize the opportunity to cause trouble. When he thought of the spirit tiger pill, he took in another deep breath and felt his heart wrench. That was the spirit tiger pill, and there was probably only one of it in the world. Even the spirit beast sect wouldn't have it anymore. Furthermore, the spirit beast sect had already disappeared. Bishop Elder Fong, who was dressed in a dark green gown, walked in gracefully and sat on the armchair opposite him. "Are you still sulking?" Her expression was lazy and her voice was low and hoarse. It was indescribably pleasing to the ear, and one could not help but want to obey her. Sigh. Song Jifan shook his head and sighed. He smiled bitterly. "Elder, we lost too much this time. It's too tragic. I've never suffered such a crushing defeat. I'm really depressed." Elder Fong smiled. "As long as the bishop is alive, it's more important than anything else. As for worldly possessions, as long as we can unify the martial arts world in the future, what treasure can't we find? It's different. There's only one spirit tiger pill, and it's your favorite. Then there's the life-saving 3-elemental pill and the 9-headed ginseng that I consumed." Sigh. Song Jifan shook his head. Using the blood escape art, he used the power of one of his eyeballs to teleport to the spirit herb peak of the floating mountain. Then, he used the ageless live forever technique to devour the most precious 9-headed ginseng. Finally, he recovered to his original state and even improved. Due to the fact that he had lost his limbs and his eyeballs, it was impossible for him to devour any grandmasters in his weakened state. Moreover, he did not know how many grandmasters he would have to devour, as it would definitely expose the secret of the art of eternal agility. In the end, he could only consume the most precious spirit ginseng on the floating mountain. This was a spirit ginseng that was more than 3,000 years old. It could bring the dead back to life. Even though his cultivation had doubled, he still didn't feel excited in the slightest. Exchanging a 9-headed spirit ginseng that was over 3,000 years old for double his cultivation was truly not worth it. It was simply a reckless waste of God's gifts and was unforgivable. He was still unable to forgive himself and brooded over it. Elder Fong said, "Cult Master is the first person to return from the 100,000 mountains. It's worth it to pay a price. At least young Cult Master knows the situation in the 100,000 mountains and gives up on the idea of taking risk. I will never enter the 100,000 mountains again." Song Jifan sighed. "These spirit beasts are too scary. They are so powerful that it's beyond imagination. An enlightened master is nothing in front of them." Elder Fong chuckled. "What if we lure Chu Li into the 100,000 mountains?" Song Jifan was stunned and thought about it. Elder Fong said, "What does Chu Li want the most?" "Heaven-murdering incantation," Song Jifan scoffed. He thought of the situation at that time. Being interrogated by Chu Li like that, he could only escape with one of his eyeballs exploding. It was a great humiliation. Chu Li would never be able to wash away this humiliation if he did not die 1,000 cuts. Elder Fong smiled. "If we tell Chu Li that the heaven-murdering incantation is not in our hands and is in a cave on one of the peaks in the 100,000 mountains, do you think he will fall for it?" "Yes," Song Jifan thought about it and nodded slowly. "Will he really fall for it?" Elder Fong smiled. "Greed deceives one's mind?" Song Jifan said, "Firstly, he yearns for the heaven-murdering incantation. I know how it feels. Secondly, he is an arrogant guy. He is very confident in himself and thinks that he can go anywhere in the world. Even if the 100,000 mountains are dangerous, it is not impossible for him to take the risk and enter. Lastly, He does not know how dangerous the 100,000 mountains are. The danger level of the 100,000 mountains is beyond people's imagination. Elder Fong smiled and said, "Then tell him. Let's see if he will fall for it." "We can give it a try," Song Jifan scoffed. Elder Fong said, "Leader, I want to meet this Chu Li." "Meet him for what?" Song Jifan frowned. "It's best not to meet him. This guy is very cunning and dangerous. I want to see how powerful he is." Elder Fong said, "That's good. I can help you come up with ideas on how to deal with him. It is difficult to defeat such a person with strength. We need to use our wit." Song Jifan shook his head slowly and sighed. "Forget it." Elder Fong was a little surprised. She did not expect the leader to be so afraid of Chu Li. Although the bishop had suffered a setback, he did not collapse. However, from the looks of it now, the bishop's fear of Chu Li was bordering on fear. What kind of person could achieve this step and cause a genius like the bishop to suffer setbacks again and again? She became more curious and excited. The more powerful a person was, the more interesting it was to kill. "Leader, what is his most powerful martial art?" Elder Fong asked. Song Jifan said, "Elder, Chu Li has cultivated a strange skill that can attack the soul. If I did not have the colored glazed treasure shield and the divine soul protection talisman, I would have fallen into his trap. I would have been killed or captured by him." Elder Fong looked solemn. "So powerful?" Song Jifan sighed. "Otherwise, why would I not be able to get away with it?" "I have something to protect my soul," Elder Fong said. "I'm not afraid of this trick of his." Song Jifan frowned and looked at her. He slowly nodded. "If that's the case, then let's meet him. It's easy to meet him. Let's go." He and Elder Fong suddenly disappeared. The next moment, they appeared outside the main entrance of the public house. He raised his voice and shouted, "Chu Li, come out." A moment after he finished speaking, Chu Li's figure appeared outside the main entrance of the public house. He smiled and looked at him. "Leader Song, you have recovered to your original state. Congratulations. I admire you." Song Jifan heard the ridicule in his tone. He sneered. "Don't be too proud. Chu Li, I will kill you today." Chu Li laughed out loud. "Do you really think you're invincible?" Song Jifan sneered. Now that his martial art had improved and he found a treasure to protect his soul in the secret vault, he was no longer afraid of Chu Li. Instead, he planned to kill him by taking advantage of Chu Li's carelessness. This was a rare opportunity. Chu Li shook his head. "This is?" Elder Fong smiled. "Chu Li, why do you look so familiar?" Chu Li smiled. "Oh." Chapter 1672. Song Jifan looked at Elder Fong curiously. Elder Fong smiled. "Leader, did you notice that Chu Li looks a little like Bailey Na?" Chu Li laughed. Song Jifan was stunned. He hesitated and did not dare to deny it. However, Chu Li and Bailey Na were worlds apart. There was no resemblance at all. How did Elder Fong notice the resemblance between the two? It was ridiculous. However, he was confident in Elder Fong's intelligence, so he felt that there must be a reason behind it. He did not deny it. Chu Li laughed. "Bailey Na, the Bailey Na whose martial arts were crippled by the public house? I heard that he was a rare genius. Unfortunately, he was ill-fated and was born at the wrong time. He did not make any achievements and was won over by you. He went against the public house. He must be tired of living. The public house is too overbearing." Song Jifan scoffed. "Bailey Na is alive and well now. His martial arts that were crippled has recovered and is even stronger than before. Chu Li, if you see him, you will be shocked." Chu Li smiled but did not say anything. He looked at Elder Fong and asked, "Lady, are you implying that I am related to Bailey Na by blood?" Elder Fong smiled and shook her head. "I feel that both of you are very similar. It's like you're the same person. That's strange. Could it be that you're the same person? Chuli was surprised and then laughed out loud. Song Jifan frowned and pondered. There were martial arts that could change one's appearance. Although it was rare, it was not non-existent. The heavenly demonic power was the most outstanding example. Although one could change one's appearance and temperament, it was difficult to change one's body. No matter how strong Chuli was, he had personally tested Bailey Na's aging body. It could not be wrong. No matter how strong the heavenly demonic power was, it could not reach such a level. Otherwise, the heavenly demonic power would be invincible. Elder Fong smiled. Nothing is impossible in this world. You have to dare to think. Chuli, you're Bailey Na, right? After she said her guess, she became more and more certain that her guess was correct. Bailey Na and Chuli were the same person. Although the two of them looked different, their ages were very different, and their temperaments were completely different as well. One was calm and elegant, while the other was deep and experienced. However, the feeling that they gave off was a strange feeling. Somehow they were similar, and she could tell that they were the same person. She believed in her own feelings. Chuli laughed out loud. This lady sure knows how to joke. Bailey Na? I am Bailey Na? Ha ha. I think I'm right. Elder Fong said. Seeing how certain Elder Fong was, Song Jifan remained silent. Even though this judgment was absurd and unbelievable, he had to consider it when it came from Elder Fong's mouth. After a while, he decided to believe in Elder Fong's judgment and said in a low voice, Chuli, you're really despicable and shameless. You disguised yourself as Bailey Na and sneaked into our church. Are you trying to find out about the heaven-murdering technique? You must be dreaming. To tell you the truth, the heaven-murdering art is not in the sect, but hidden in the 100,000 mountains. If you have the ability, go to the 100,000 mountains and find it yourself, ha ha. 100,000 mountains? Chuli was stunned, then he shook his head and laughed. Do you think I'm stupid enough to fall for your trick and run to the 100,000 hills? Who doesn't know that the 100,000 hills is a forbidden place for humans? It's up to you whether you believe it or not, Song Jifan scoffed. And I dare to tell you that the heaven-murdering technique is at Clear Heaven Peak in the 100,000 hills. Clear Heaven Peak. Chuli frowned. Song Jifan laughed out loud. Don't you want to get the heaven-murdering technique? Then go find it yourself. Let's see if you have the guts, ha ha. Chuli scoffed. I won't fall for this trick. Don't be too proud, Chief Song. Do you really think you can dominate the world with your current cultivation level? So what if it's doubled? It's just SOSO. The rest of the enlightened masters have their cultivation levels increased by 6 or 7 times by the Grandmaster. Your good days are over. So what? Song Jifan sneered. His heart sank slightly. It was not that he did not mind. The increase of 6 or 7 times was not something that could be overcome. If he encountered these enlightened masters now, he might not be a match for them. If he had the heaven-murdering sword, he would not be afraid. Thinking about this, his desire for the heaven-murdering sword grew. He scoffed. Surnamed Shu, Bailey Na, stop pretending. I think you know the strength of my church. Can your High Duke's public house stop it? Can Goddess Attraction Mountain stop it? Chuli laughed. Bailey Na, do you really think I'm Bailey Na? Someone come. He suddenly let out a shout. Yes, master. Xue Ling appeared in front of everyone in a white gown. She was spotless and flawless. Her body was shrouded in a cold aura. She was untainted by the dust of the world. Chuli said, Bring Bailey Na here. Yes, Xue Ling said. She turned around and entered the High Duke's public house. She disappeared. Chuli smiled. This Bailey Na is indeed a talent. However, he still dares to come to our High Duke's public house. He really thinks that we're just decorations. He has guts. Chuli, what do you mean? Song Jifan's expression changed. He had previously warned Bai Li Na not to think about taking revenge on Chu Li. Could it be that he did not listen to him and came back? Elder Fong frowned and looked at Chu Li. Chu Li was unusually calm. He did not panic or feel embarrassed when he was exposed. His state of mind was not affected at all. This was a little strange. After a while, Xue Ling appeared again. She was holding a flustered old man in her hand. His hair covered his face. He was thrown to the ground by Xue Ling. He was motionless as if he was dead. Who is this? Elder Fong frowned. She felt that this Bai Li Na in front of her was a little unfamiliar. Xue Ling, Chu Li said. Xue Ling said lightly, Bai Li Na, don't pretend to be dead. Otherwise, don't blame us for torturing you. Bai Li Na slowly raised his head. His old face was full of wrinkles. He looked dispirited and depressed. He looked at Song Jifan shamefully and closed-fist saluted. Greetings, Bishop. You. Song Jifan was furious. Why did you? Bai Li Na sighed. Bishop, I don't have the intention to take revenge on the High Duke's public house. I just want to find out the truth. You. Song Jifan shook his head and sighed. He could understand Bai Li Na's thoughts. He had suffered such a great injustice and humiliation. If he did not come back to take a look, he would not be satisfied. As a result, he fell into Chu Li's hands. It was not surprising that he suffered in Chu Li's hands. If Bai Li Na could easily get close to the High Duke's public house, it would be strange. Bai Li Na looked at Elder Fong and closed-fist saluted. I've embarrassed myself in front of Elder Fong. Elder Fong frowned and stared at him. You are Bai Li Na? Bai Li Na smiled bitterly. I don't dare to look at myself like this. No, Elder Fong shook his head and scoffed. Where did you meet me for the first time? Bai Li Na was startled. He closed-fist saluted. Elder Fong, what do you mean? Not at the Tower of Unusual Techniques? Elder Fong scoffed. What about the second time? The Heaven's Punishment Hall. The third time? Bai Li Na thought for a while. The Heaven's Punishment Hall. Chu Li laughed. Since he is not Bai Li Na, that's great. Xue Ling, bring him back. Yes, master. Xue Ling looked at Bai Li Na coldly. Chapter 1673. Chu Li shook his head. Fortunately, he was on guard against Elder Fong. He had already presented his experiences along the way to Bai Li Na's mind, so he was not afraid of being exposed. This was the effect of the dragon taming technique. Through the inner energy of the dragon taming technique, he could connect his mind with the other person and send his thoughts into the other person's mind. After he sent his previous experiences and actions into Bai Li Na's mind, it was as if Bai Li Na had experienced it himself. Not to mention these general words, even his feelings and tone could not be seen through. Chu Li had read all the experiences in Bai Li Na's mind, so when he used the heavenly demonic power to transform into Bai Li Na, his tone of speech and his actions were no different from Bai Li Na's. It was not Bai Li Na imitating him, it was him imitating Bai Li Na perfectly and flawlessly. Wait! Song Jifan shouted. Xue did not stop her movements. She stretched out her hand to grab Bai Li Na. Humph! Song Jifan scoffed. He flicked his sleeve and was about to hit Xue. Giving her a taste of his power would be a slap to Chu Li's face. Such a beautiful woman was actually his maid. It was a waste of God's gift. Chu Li also flicked his sleeve and removed Song Jifan's inner energy. Bang! A silent force surged. Xue and Bai Li Na's clothes fluttered as if they were in a strong wind. Xue had already lifted Bai Li Na up and was about to leave. Chu Li! Song Jifan panicked. He scoffed angrily. If you take Bai Li Na away, don't blame me for attacking the people of the High Duke's public house. Chu Li smiled. All right, you attack the people of the High Duke's public house, I'll attack the people of the floating mountain. You! Song Jifan's expression changed slightly. Chu Li smiled. Do you think Bailey Na can hide anything? Bailey Na quickly shouted, Leader, I'm innocent. Song Jifan's face was gloomy. He stared at Chu Li. Chu Li smiled, So, do you still want to save him now? He is a disciple of the Chongshan denomination. Once a disciple of the Chongshan denomination, he will always be a disciple of the Chongshan denomination. Alive, he will be a member of the Chongshan denomination. Dead, he will be a ghost of the Chongshan denomination. I must save him. Song Jifan scoffed, even if he is forced to confess everything he knows. Ha ha! Chu Li clapped his hands and laughed. This is the magnanimity of a leader of a religion. All right, for the sake of your magnanimity, I'll give this Bailey Na to you. Consider it as you owing me a favor. Humph! Song Jifan snorted unhappily and did not refute. He also knew that if Chu Li stubbornly refused to hand over the person, there was nothing he could do. It was impossible to snatch the person back from Chu Li's hands. Other methods were completely useless, or else he could force Chu Li to hand over the heaven-killing sword. Xueling, Chu Li said. Yes, master, Xueling replied and threw Bailey Na onto Song Jifan's body at lightning speed. Song Jifan gently waved his hand, and Bailey Na floated to his side. Bailey Na revealed a grateful and ashamed expression. Cult master, shut up. I'll deal with you when we get back. Song Jifan snorted. Yes, Bailey Na closed fist saluted and said no more. Chu Li smiled and said, Cult leader Song, you'll have to waste a spirit pill to restore your martial arts if you bring such a useless person back. Why bother? This old man doesn't have the ability to fight anymore, so it's better to give up. I have my own ideas. It's not up to you to decide, Song Jifan said coldly. Chu Li chuckled. All right then, forgive me for not sending you off. I wonder if Cult Master Song has anything else to say? Do you want to fight again? That's all for today. I'll be back. Song Jifan snorted. He realized that Chu Li's cultivation level had skyrocketed and was even scarier than before. However, he could not do anything to Chu Li even if he joined forces with Elder Fong. Chu Li smiled. Then I'll wait for Cult Master Song to come again. Forgive me for not sending you off. Song Jifan snorted. He put his hand on Bailey Na's shoulder and fluttered away. Elder Fong took a deep look at Chu Li and turned to leave. She had always been doubtful. She felt that Chu Li was more familiar, but she was not familiar with Bailey Na. She wanted to go back and ask Bailey Na if it was her illusion. The three of them went to Bailey Na's cottage. However, as soon as they reached the cottage, the scenery in front of them suddenly shook and changed rapidly. Oh no, it's a formation! Elder Fong snorted. As soon as she finished her sentence, Song Jifan and Bailey Na's shadows disappeared in front of her. However, she was not in a hurry to use her secret skill to get out of the formation. She believed that the cult master would save her, and she would not have to waste her lifespan. The cult master had the ageless longevity technique. His lifespan was very long and he did not lack this little bit. However, she could not. As expected, after a while, she suddenly felt her arm tighten. The scenery in front of her quickly flashed, and then suddenly lit up. She appeared outside the forest with Bailey Na standing beside her with a calm expression. She looked at Bailey Na. Aren't you afraid? Bailey Na shook his head. Since they let me go this time, they won't make things difficult for me. You do understand Chu Li's way of doing things, Elder Fong snorted. She suddenly had a strange feeling. It was as if Bailey Na in front of her had become familiar again. It was as familiar as Chu Li. She suddenly realized why she felt so familiar. It was because their smiles vaguely revealed a sense of freedom. However, Bailey Na did not smile like this before, so she felt it was strange. Now that he smiled, there was a sense of familiarity. Could it be that her intuition was because their smiles were similar? Bailey Na smiled. I have had many dealings with Chu Li. I was crippled by the High Duke's public house twice. I can say that I understand their way of doing things. You are broad-minded. Elder Fong squinted her bright eyes and smiled lazily. It seems like you don't hate Chu Li at all. Bailey Na shook his head and sighed. To be honest, I don't hate him at all. If it was someone else, he would have killed me long ago. He has always been merciful. It's rare and I'm lucky. Haha, interesting. Elder Fong suddenly laughed. Her laughter was like a silver bell floating in the air. Song Jifan came out of the forest with a gloomy face. He shook his head. It must be Chu Li's trick. He's warning me to stay away. This formation was placed near the thatched cottage. It was neither too far nor too close. It was obvious that Chu Li was up to no good. He did not want him to stay here anymore. He wanted to chase him away from Chongming Town. Leader, let's take a break first, Elder Fong said. She could not wait to interrogate Bailey Na. She wanted to ask him in detail if there was any problem. All right, let's go there first, Song Jifan nodded. The three of them came to Bailey Na's thatched cottage and sat in front of the stone table. Bailey Na heaved a sigh of relief. Song Jifan put his hand on his wrist. After a while, he shook his head. Chu Li is really ruthless. But it's just as well. You might as well cripple all your martial arts and only cultivate the ageless longevity technique. Yes, Bailey Na nodded. Song Jifan extended his finger and gently tapped on his heart. Bailey Na trembled. He immediately looked happy. He closed-fist saluted. Thank you, leader. Tell me, what did you tell Chu Li? Song Jifan scoffed. Elder Fong looked at him with a smile. Bailey Na smiled bitterly. Leader, I really did not say anything. Then how did he know about the floating mountain? Song Jifan said coldly. It doesn't matter even if you told him something. It's hard to keep your mouth shut in that situation. Besides, you don't know any secret. Chapter 1674. Seeing how he swore, Song Jifan and Elder Fong believed him. As a grandmaster, this kind of oath was very effective. Song Jifan scoffed. Chu Li is indeed sinister and ruthless. Elder Fong nodded lightly. This is a good move. It made us suspicious of Bai Li and not useful anymore. It seems like he still values Bai Li. Although Bai Li's martial arts is ordinary, his intelligence is not bad. Song Jifan scoffed. But it's useless in front of Chu Li. He gets caught by the House of High Dukes so easily. He's a disgrace to me. Bai Li looked ashamed. Leader, I underestimated the spies in Chongming Town. I didn't even think about getting close to the House of High Duke. I just wanted to get some information in Chongming Town. I didn't expect them to recognize me. Can't you change your appearance? Song Jifan said impatiently. Bai Li sighed. I've already disguised myself. I wore a beard and dyed my eyebrows. I even changed my hair. I thought nothing would go wrong. I didn't expect them to recognize me. Song Jifan said, Then it's not your fault. Stay away from Chu Li in the future. Yes, leader, Bai Li sighed in relief. Elder Fong smiled. How long has it been since we last met? You don't have any of the elegance you once had. Bai Li Na said, Elder, I don't have any elegance. I've always been like this. Sigh. I shouldn't have acted on my own. I told Brother Lu that I was going to cultivate in isolation. I ended up dying in Chongming Town. I remember I asked you last time why you know the Jade script. Can you tell me in detail again? Elder Fong asked. Bai Li Na was startled. Elder Fong is looking for that master? I've been investigating, but there's no news. Monks like the master are elusive. I've given up these years. There aren't many monks in the world who know the Jade script, Elder Fong said. Could it be from the Tempest Temple? I don't think so, Bai Li Na shook his head. I've gone to the Tempest Temple to investigate. I didn't know this master. Do you still remember the first level of the ageless longevity technique? Elder Fong asked. Of course I remember, Bai Li Na said with a laugh. Jiaozhu taught me, plus the secret manuals from the Qigong Lu, my cultivation speed is indeed very fast. Are you interested in my pet? Elder Fong smiled and said, Do you know what it is? Is it the spirit tiger? I can't even breathe from such an imposing manner. Bailey Na said hesitantly, It looks like a tiger to me, but it's really too big, so I can't say for sure. Elder Fong frowned and looked at him, then at Song Jifan. Song Jifan said, Elder, there's no need to test him anymore. He should be fine. Elder Fong sighed. She had always felt that something was not quite right, but this Bailey Na was indeed flawless. Song Jifan's expression suddenly changed as he turned his head to look behind him. Two people suddenly appeared in the void behind him. One of them was a middle-aged man in a bright yellow robe, looking elegant and dignified. The other was a slender and graceful lady in a snow-white gown. Her face was covered with a white veil, revealing only a pair of bright eyes that looked like a pool of limpid autumn water. They were cold and arrogant, as if they were looking down on all beings and disdained the mortal world. Song Jifan was instantly intoxicated when he saw that pair of bright eyes. He then sighed bitterly, Cult Master Sun. Sun Mingyue looked at Song Jifan plainly and glanced at Bailey Na. Bailey Na gave her a look, then quickly glanced at Elder Fong. Tang Su said with a deep voice, Are you Cult Master Song Jifan? Yes, I am. You must be Tang Su, Song Jifan said coldly. What do you want? Tang Su said slowly, I heard that the Changshan cult wants to reign supreme in the world, and that you, Cult Master Song, want to kill all of our enlightened masters. Hence, I'm here to learn from you, Cult Master Song. Let's see how dare you speak such arrogant words. With just the two of you? Song Jifan scoffed. Tang Su said, Do you think we're no match for you, Cult Master Song? To be honest, you're no match for me. Song Jifan looked at Sun Mingyue and sighed. Why do you want to get involved in this mess, Cult Master Sun? I won't kill you. Sun Mingyue looked at him coldly and did not say a word. Elder Fong frowned at the two of them, then looked at Bailey Na. Bailey Na quickly said, Cult Master, shall we leave first? Go ahead. Song Jifan waved his hand. Bailey Na quickly fist saluted and turned to leave. Elder Fong followed him and turned around. Sun Mingyue said coldly, Young lady, please wait. Elder Fong's expression changed slightly, and she slowly turned around. Sun Mingyue said, I can see that you're good-looking, talented, and have such a high cultivation level. You're a martial arts genius. Why don't you join the Great Light Peak and stay away from an evil cult like the Changshan cult? Elder Fong's expression darkened. Tang Su chuckled. Cult Master Sun, that's not very kind of you. Sun Mingyue said, Your Majesty, there's no need to be so calculative. Our cult is lacking talents now, and we need a genius like you. Your Majesty, the royal family has many talented disciples, and it's really enviable. We don't need one more person. Hee hee. Tang Su laughed. All right, since Cult Master Sun has spoken, I'll do it for your sake. Thank you, Your Majesty, Sun Mingyue said coldly. The two of them appeared to be harmonious on the surface, but on the inside they were not. Previously they were enemies, but now they were fighting side by side against the enemy. Song Jifan suddenly laughed coldly. Elder Fong is an elder of our cult. Since when did you have the right to criticize her? Cult Master Sun, I respect your purity, so I can't bear to speak ill of you, but please don't make me lose my patience. Sun Mingyue looked at him coldly, then glanced at Bailey Na, who had entered the forest. She scoffed. Why talk so much, just do it. Since you're an elder of the Changshan cult, I'm sure you don't think highly of our cult. That's right. Elder Fong gritted her teeth. Sun Mingyue suddenly flicked her sleeves. Elder Fong immediately retreated and hid behind Song Jifan. Song Jifan waved his palm and went forward. Bam! Sun Mingyue's clothes fluttered, and Song Jifan took a step back. His expression changed slightly and his gaze froze. He did not expect Sun Mingyue to have such a profound cultivation level. If he did not use his secret skill, he would not be able to defeat Sun Mingyue. As a man, he could not bear to be embarrassed like this. His handsome face turned red, and he took a deep breath before he struck with his palm again. Bam! Sun Mingyue's divine light fist struck out. The forces collided, and a deafening sound was heard. Elder Fong felt his blood and qi tremble. He knew that the wisest thing to do now was to leave. Otherwise, it would be difficult for him to escape unscathed, and the cult master might not have the time to care about him. "Do it, Your Majesty," Sun Mingyue said. Tang Su nodded. He took a step forward, stood beside Sun Mingyue, and slowly unsheathed his sword. The sword radiance was bright and clean. As the long sword left the scabbard, the sword's splendor skyrocketed and became more and more intense. When it was finally unsheathed, the splendor was so dazzling that one could not look at it directly, as if a scorching sun had landed on the blade. Tang Su scoffed softly, and took a step forward in the void to stab. Song Jifan let out a disdainful smile. In terms of the subtlety of swordsmanship, he had never been afraid of anyone except Chu Li. Ding! His sword suddenly turned into a cold gleam and shot towards Tang Su, hitting the dazzling splendor. Tang Su staggered a step back and almost fell from the void. He did not expect Song Jifan to be so powerful, but he did not know that Song Jifan had already activated the sacrificial divine power and exploded with 10 times the strength, firmly suppressing him and Sun Mingyue. Chapter 1675. Song Jifan wanted to follow up with another stab and kill Tang Su while he was weak, but the divine light fist was already in front of him, so he could only block it with his sword. Ding! The divine light fist collided with the long sword, causing the sword to tremble. This was the divine light fist that was activated by the supreme titanium scripture, which was several times more powerful than the original Great Light scripture. Song Jifan was caught off guard. His long sword trembled and dissipated the force of the fist. The momentum of his attack was stifled, giving Tang Su time to catch his breath. The dazzling brilliance of the sword rose again and stabbed at Song Jifan again. Tang Su joined forces with Sun Mingyue. One by one, they fought Song Jifan to a standstill. Song Jifan had been holding back against Sun Mingyue, but Tang Su took advantage of it. He could have suppressed one person, but he was suppressed by 2 people. Elder Fong silently retreated into the forest and saw Bai Li Na staring at them nervously. She shook her head and said, "Let's go." Bai Li Na lowered his voice. "The leader? The leader can handle it, we're a burden," Elder Fong said softly. She squinted her eyes at the 3 people fighting and shook her head. The fight between enlightened masters was earth-shattering and powerful. Grandmasters would be courting death if they were to stand by the side, as the repercussions of an enlightened master could easily kill a grandmaster. Bai Li Na nodded, and the 2 slowly retreated. After retreating more than 10 meters, the fight between the 3 people was getting blurry and was about to be blocked by the forest, but the 2 suddenly stopped. 3 silhouettes appeared in the void again. Leng Wufeng, Chen Jinji, and Monk Luan Ming, the 3 enlightened masters, stood in the void and looked down at the 3 people, shaking their heads. Leng Wufeng said, "Brother Chen, master, it seems like this leader song is a genius. If we let him grow, we'll die without a burial place, and he'll refine us into transformation pills." He wore a robe with golden dragons embroidered on it, and Chen Jinji beside him were graceful and noble. As the emperor, his golden mouth and jade teeth cultivated an intimidating aura. Namo Amitba. Master Luan Ming put his palms together and chanted. He shook his head and sighed. There's almsgiver Chu, and now there's leader song. It's so lively. It's not a good thing for such a person to appear. Chen Jinji snorted. Leng Wufeng nodded. Troubled times are bound to happen when geniuses come forth in large numbers, so it's best that we suppress cult leader song. Exactly. Monk Luanming said. He seems to be more powerful than Mr. Chu. If we don't suppress him, we will all become incarnation elixirs. At that time, the world will be in chaos, and I'm afraid our foundation will be unstable. The three of them wore solemn expressions. Bailey Na turned his head and said in a low voice, "Elder, this is bad." Elder Fong said in a deep voice, "Then we have to leave quickly and not be a burden to Cult Master." "Yes," Bailey Na said slowly. The two of them sped up and entered the depths of the forest in an instant. They followed the mountain peak, and were about to pass the peak when they suddenly stopped. They saw Sun Mingyue stepping in the air, her white robes fluttering in the wind as if she was riding the wind to ascend to the heavenly palace. Bailey Na and Elder Fong stopped. Sun Mingyue's eyes, which were only visible, sized Elder Fong up and shook her head. "Aren't you going to reconsider joining the Holy Church of Light?" "No need," Elder Fong said in a deep voice. "As the leader of a church, is Cult Master Sun really going to cause trouble for us? I don't think it's an unfair victory, do I?" "So what if it's an unfair victory? I've never been bound by a false reputation. Since you don't want to join the Holy Church of Light, you're our enemy. I can only send you away." Sun Mingyue said faintly. "If you kill me, Cult Master Sun will kill even more Holy Church of Light disciples," Elder Fong said in a deep voice. "It's better for Cult Master Sun to reconsider." Bailey Na said, "That's right, Cult Master Sunday. This is a bad start. From now on, the Holy Church of Light disciples won't have a day of peace." Elder Fong said, "We're not a threat to Cult Master Sunday. I never underestimate anyone. This young lady has such a high cultivation level. It's better to kill her," Sun Mingyue said faintly and glanced at Bailey Na with her clear eyes. "As for you, you can leave now." The contempt in her eyes was obvious. Bailey Na clenched his teeth and said hatefully, "Although I'm not talented, I won't escape alone." "That's great. Both of you can come at me together," Sun Mingyue said. Right after she said that, she lightly launched two palm strike. Bang! Bailey Na and Elder Fong flew backward and crashed into two pine trees. They struggled but could not get up. Elder Fong's heart was cold. She initially thought that with her cultivation level, she would be able to block one or two strikes even if her opponent was an enlightened master. However, she did not expect that she could not even block one strike. Sun Mingyue's martial arts was beyond her imagination. Bailey Na spat out a mouthful of blood and said hatefully, "Others are dealing with Cult Master, but you're dealing with us. You're really shameless." Sun Mingyue said, "Whether you're shameless or not has nothing to do with me. If I kill both of you now, I'll be saving 10 times more Holy Church of Light disciples in the future. So, both of you should leave." Right after she said that, she launched another palm strike. "Elder Fong, you leave first," Bailey Na shouted. His body suddenly shrunk and shot towards Sun Mingyue like a ray of light. Bang 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 bang! Sun Mingyue launched a few consecutive palm strikes and scoffed. "You're quite skilled." Bailey Na's palm energy was fierce and overbearing. He was performing the heavenly king palm. Rays of light fell from the sky and condensed into palm prints. Sun Mingyue did not dare to underestimate these palm prints. She waved her hand to meet them and disperse them one by one. Elder Fong looked at Bailey Na deeply. She did not expect him to suddenly risk his life to protect her. She did not know if it was because of his pride as a man or because he was angry. Regardless, this was a rare opportunity. She would not let it go. Suddenly, she turned into a blurry shadow and shot out. In an instant, she flipped over the peak of the mountain. Bang! Sun Mingyue's palm struck her back. Ugh! After spitting out a mouthful of blood, she sped up and disappeared like a ray of light. The palm energy was like a flame that instantly burned her body. She felt like she had turned into a raging flame that emitted light. The light was getting stronger and stronger, but she was getting weaker and weaker. She was like a burning log. After running for 100 miles in one breath, she sat down softly in the depths of the forest. Her face was pale and yellow. Her body was empty, and the palm energy of an enlightened master was still lingering around her. Trembling, she took out a small jade bottle from her bosom and poured all the pills in the bottle into her mouth. She began to meditate while sitting cross-legged. The image of Bailey Na flashed across her mind. She was afraid that he was already dead. Sigh. What a pity for this guy. Now she knew that she had wronged him. However, why did she have to use this method to prove her innocence? It was not worth it. Actually, both of them had performed the sacrificial divine technique, and they might have had a chance to escape. However, if it was not for him, she would not have been able to escape if Sun Mingyue had chased after her. Thinking about this, she felt complicated. Ugh! She spat out another mouthful of blood. She quickly suppressed her distracting thoughts and focused on cultivating the medicine to suppress her injuries as soon as possible. However, Sun Mingyue's divine power was really strange. She could not suppress it no matter how hard she tried. Her injuries kept worsening. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.